Chapter 975. The Blood Sea erupted, destroying the world. The lion cloud in the sky was penetrated by the boundless blood energy. It turned into a ray of golden light and disappeared into the Blood Sea. If not for the fact that it was a guardian beast that would never truly die, it would not have survived the destructive Blood Sea energy. The surface of the stormy sea was also surging with thousands of waves. It was surging. It cannot be calmed down for a long time. Beside the silent king, the 8 generals were gathered, completely unharmed. Under the protection of the silent king's guardian beast, the faith inherent skill, and the prayer domain, the poet, the long-bearded man, the fatty, the dwarf, the fool, the barbarian, and the hanged man survived the Blood Sea explosion, which the enraged domain emperor had sacrificed his life. Bah! The hanged man was shocked. However, after realizing that he was safe and sound with the protection of the silent king, he immediately showed an arrogant and contemptuous expression. You overestimate yourself. The dwarf was also laughing strangely. The silent king, who was like a majestic mountain protecting his subordinates by his side, remained silent. Not only did he not mock them, he did not show any disrespectful expression. He even bowed slightly to the enraged domain emperor, who had sacrificed his life to explode the Blood Sea energy in the center of the stormy sea. 2 people fell from the sky. They were the Golden Crown King, who had lost his right arm, and the Lion King, whose guardian beast had died on the spot. The 2 kings were standing at the center of the explosion when the enraged domain emperor self-destructed. They bore the brunt of the Blood Sea's energy attack. Although they were strong and their lives were not in danger, they were in a sorry state. A blood-red fiend celestial was slowly descending from the sky. There was no longer any anger on its face. There was only a strange expression. That was relief. That kind of relief was like a long-hidden wish or secret that finally had the chance to be fulfilled or revealed in front of everyone. Other than mental relief and relaxation, there was also an indescribable joy and satisfaction. This was a kind of liberation. Normally, it was hard to see, but many people were on the verge of death. It was the final radiance of the setting sun before death. The blood-red light emitted by the blood-red demon was no longer violent and angry. It was no longer bloodthirsty and murderous. Although it did not smile, it gave the illusion that the blood-red demon was smiling. It floated all the way down. The vengeful domain emperor, who was wrapped in a ball of blood-red energy, floated above the stormy sea. Closer, closer, gradually drifting closer. The avenging domain emperor, who was protected by the blood-red energy, was not dead yet. He opened his eyes with his last breath and saw that the blood-red demon god was gradually drifting closer and turning into the enraged domain emperor. The furious domain emperor seemed to want to say something, but no sound came out. He seemed to want to hug the vengeful domain emperor. However, he no longer had a body. His body had already turned into powder when the Blood Sea erupted. At this time, the energy body formed by the blood-red energy was exactly the same as the blood-red energy that enveloped the revenge domain emperor. Before the finger could touch the revenge domain emperor's body, it continued to dissipate. The storm sea lost its energy pressure, and the energy that had been suppressed to the limit at the bottom of the sea erupted again. A gust of wind swept across the surface of the sea. The blood-red energy body of the angry domain emperor was gradually blown away by the gust of energy and gradually dissipated. With his last bit of willpower, the furious territory emperor barely managed to maintain the shape of his head. The lips on the head moved slightly, as if it wanted to say something to the vengeful territory emperor that it had never said before. What a hateful guy. No matter what, don't think that you can survive in this storm sea. The Lion King was very angry. Lion Yun was his guardian beast. Although he could not kill it, the level and power of Lion Yun would definitely be greatly reduced after such a devastating injury. Moreover, he would definitely not be able to summon it again for a long time. Go to hell. In comparison, the Golden Crown King was more resentful. The enraged domain emperor had broken one of his arms in front of everyone. That arm had fused with the golden holy sword of the central shrine. Without it, his power had decreased by at least 30%. Originally, his power was on par with the Lion King, but now he could only be ranked behind the Lion King. Although the Lion King had lost Lion Yin, it was a guardian beast and would recover very soon. Losing an arm meant that his power had decreased even more. What worried the Golden Crown King the most was that the Double-Faced King had improved very quickly. He had been catching up with the Double-Faced King all these years. If his power continued to decrease, the Double-Faced King would surpass him sooner or later. The Golden Crown King waved his remaining left arm and drew a holy shield rune pattern in the void. The golden energy formed a shining holy shield. As the enraged Domain Emperor's lips moved, as if he had something to say to the vengeful Domain Emperor, he turned his body and threw out the golden holy shield. Drawing a golden path, the golden holy shield carried the Golden Crown King's anger and killing intent. It heavily hit the bloody red energy that was only left of the enraged Domain Emperor's head, instantly destroying it. The vengeful Domain Emperor could only watch helplessly, unable to stop it. He also did not speak. His lips were tightly pursed. However, a tear of blood quickly slid down from the corner of his eyes. When the person he hated the most, when the target of revenge died in front of him, he did not feel happy or satisfied. Instead, he felt an indescribable regret and pain. Kill him, he beckoned with one arm, and the divine light sword that was originally sinking to the bottom of the sea broke through the air like a flying fish out of the water, and as if there was a fishing line in its mouth, it accurately fell into the hands of the Golden Crown King. The divine light sword did not accept such a master. It buzzed for a while, but it could not resist the power of the Golden Crown King. Like a big fish that fell into the hands of a fisherman, it struggled in vain. After buzzing for a few times, it gradually became silent and gave up struggling. However, it sealed its will and refused to accept a new master with spiritual error. The Golden Crown King did not care about it at all. He knew that as long as he pressured it with energy for a long time, this divine light sword would succumb sooner or later. Strength could overwhelm everything. He inserted the sword into his belt, waved his hand, and cruelly ordered his 8 generals to kill the vengeful Domain Emperor in front of the divine light sword. Yes, the hanging man and the barbarian tribe savage jumped out and decided to take the credit. If the vengeful Domain Emperor was not in a dying state, even if there were a few more of them, they would not be able to defeat him. However, now, not to mention elites like the 8 generals, even an ordinary heaven rank or even an earth rank warrior could disperse the blood energy and successfully kill the vengeful Domain Emperor. The vengeful Domain Emperor slowly closed his eyes. As for death, it was within his expectations. However, at this moment, he would rather die in the blood sea of the vengeful Domain Emperor than die in the hands of the hanging man and the others. Even if the vengeful Domain Emperor protected him and he could live for one more minute, what was the point? Rather than being tortured to death by the people of the Central Shrine, he would rather die in the blood sea. Of course, death was not an option. Moreover, the wait would not be too long. The enemy would not waste any time, and the fatal blow would come soon. Wait, this guy still owes me a lot of money. No matter what, let me collect my debt first. On the stormy sea, a person appeared. The rolling waves seemed to be frightened and suddenly calmed down, like a puppy shrinking in the corner of a wall. Wall what? Not to mention the stormy sea. Even the Lion King and the Golden Crown King were shocked. The Silent King's eyes narrowed as if they were pricked by needles. The poet and the other generals were dumbfounded. Dumbfounded. They could not believe that this person had appeared. The person was, of course, Yu Yang, who was called the new prison emperor by the Sun King. He had a smile on his face. His lips were red and his teeth were white. His smile was relaxed and bright. Those who did not know him would think that he had just returned from a wedding. When Yu Yang's figure appeared, behind him, the snake-haired demon man, the emperor of Still Wind Kingdom, the Pearl Light Beauty, the emperor of Green Wolf Kingdom, and the others who had been destroyed by the Blood Sea all appeared. None of them were missing. None of them died. The Silent King's eyes were colder than ice. Only he knew how terrifying this young man was. This young man not only escaped from the Sun King's attack, but also managed to hide from his eyes and save his companions who were in the center of the explosion. Most importantly, he still had the leisure to do so. What did this prove? It proved that the Sun King would not catch up for the time being. Although the Silent King could not understand how this young man could trap the Sun King, but from his relaxed smile, the Silent King understood that this young man was very confident. His appearance at this time was probably part of his plan. "I'm sorry, I'm not dead yet. Sorry to disappoint you." Yu Yang apologized with a smile, looking very sincere. "Where's Double-Faced King?" The Golden Crown King was shocked. He asked the Double-Faced King who was chasing after Sky Execution. Actually, he wanted to ask the Sun King more, but he did not dare to think about the Sun King's failure. "Ah, could it be that you think it's really fitting for this young master to personally take care of a lowly servant like him? It's enough for my guards and watchdogs to take care of him. I won't do anything that's too shameful." Yu Yang took out a paper fan out of nowhere. He opened it and waved it, looking exactly like a hedonistic young master who teased innocent women on the streets. The Lion King wanted to say something, but the Silent King instantly passed his subordinates. He stood directly in front of Yu Yang. Other than him, no one else was a match for Yu Yang. Even the bravest Lion King and the proudest Golden Crown King were secretly afraid of this young man. They felt guilty and couldn't bring themselves to fight. This was a young man that even the Sun King couldn't stop after scheming for the entire situation. This was a young man who had defeated Su Kong and Jiu Shao, two of the Heaven Realm's 3 great leaders. This was a young man who had completely defeated the Nine Lights Heaven Queen and directly destroyed the entire Nine Lights clan. Little One Li, who was beside Yu Yang, flashed and appeared behind the Golden Crown King. The Golden Crown King used the Golden Holy Shield to protect his body. He turned around quickly. "Attack!" Although he didn't know, the little lowly snake stared at him with her big eyes. The divine beast's will and binding inherent skill exploded and froze the Golden Crown King in midair. She stretched out her small hand and gently pulled out the divine light sword from the Golden Crown King's waist. Her slow movement was like a fiery slap on the Golden Crown King's face, mercilessly humiliating the Central Shrine's rancor's face. After the divine light sword regained its freedom, with the support of Little One Li's energy, it turned into a ray of silver light. It pierced through the blood-red energy shield and flew towards the safe area behind Yu Yang with its master, the vengeful Domain Emperor. The snake-haired Devil Man leaped out with all his might and caught the vengeful Domain Emperor. He then turned around and shouted at the Still Wind Kingdom's king, Green Wolf Kingdom's king, and the others who were at a loss. "You fools, quickly return to the space passage and leave this place. Don't cause more trouble for Titan you." This roar woke the Still Wind Kingdom's king and Green Wolf Kingdom's king from a dream. They quickly led the crowd back to the space passage. The Lion King raised his head and glanced at the Silent King. He realized that the Silent King was like the Sun King, only looking at Yu Yang. He quickly stood with the Golden Crown King who had regained his mobility and fought the enemy side by side. Now, he realized that the little Lamia lowly, who had been quiet all this while, was not as simple as an ordinary divine beast. She was basically a lowly version of the conquering queen. The barbarian tribe, Savage, roared at the sky and madly charged towards the Green Wolf Kingdom's king and the others. Although he couldn't do anything to the Titan Prince, it was not a problem to kill the Green Wolf Kingdom's king and the others. This guy who was rough but careful had chosen an opponent for himself. Whoosh! A golden arrow nailed into the barbarian tribe, Savage's thigh. In an instant, the elephant-like leg turned into a stone pillar. Unknowingly, there were already 4 Guardian War Beasts behind Little One Li. For Guardian War Beasts? Furthermore, every single one of them was a Guardian Beast that was close to the level of a Divine Beast. Forget about the warriors of the 8 generals. Even the Lion King and the Golden Crown King felt their hearts sink when they saw the stone element Medusa, the Storm Mermaid, the Thunder Naga, and the Ice Serpent Demon. This battle was really not easy to fight. Chapter 976. Space Tunnel. In the spatial passage that was on the verge of collapse, the Still Wind Monarch, the Azure Wolf Monarch, and the other heaven-rank powerhouses unexpectedly discovered that there was no one there. What about God's retribution and two-faced king? What made the Still Wind Monarch the most suspicious was that according to the time Titan U came out and the time Double-Faced King pursued, there was no reason for them not to have met. Could it be that Double-Faced King had already been killed by Titan U? The two rulers, Green Wolf and Luluo, immediately entered the stone world. Soon he turned back. He shook his head. This meant that there was no one in the stone world, and even the astral world was empty. Sky Execution and their companions, as well as Hui Tai Lang and that Earth Divine Soldier. If young Master Titan had saved them into the Grimoire world, then that would be fine. But where did Double-Faced King go? No matter how powerful the Titan Prince is, there's no reason for him to instantly kill the Double-Faced King. The Lord of the Still Wind Kingdom had recovered a portion of his strength. While channeling energy to heal the Pearl Beauty, he discussed the battle situation with the Lord of the Azure Wolf Kingdom and the others. Inside, there's actually an ancient runic teleportation array. Originally, there was an additional teleportation array beneath the god body. The Azure Wolf Emperor hesitated for a moment, but he still said it in the end. What do you mean? The Lord of the Still Wind Kingdom had a rough idea. That ancient rune transportation portal might be a passageway to the Grimoire. Sky Execution, Grey Wolf, and the Two-Faced King might have already entered it. As for the Titan Prince, he managed to escape from the Sun King's pursuit under Lord Mingri Hao's control and returned to the Stormy Sea, the king of Luluo said. The moment he said that, everyone's hearts began to heat up. Divine Grimoire. Although everyone knew that the Divine Grimoire would never recognize him as its master. After all, it was a Divine Grimoire. Even if he couldn't obtain the Divine Grimoire, being able to enter it would not be a waste of his life. Everyone quietened down and looked at each other. In the end, they all avoided eye contact. In fact, everyone wanted to enter, but they were too embarrassed to show it in front of everyone. According to their strength, they had no chance of entering the Grimoire. That was the battle between the Titan Prince and the Sun King. Unless the two of them died in battle, and the Silent King, the Lion King, and the 8 generals under their command were all dead, it would never be their turn. The snake-haired devil man, who was holding the vengeful Regent Emperor, suddenly laughed out loud. Let's go. We can see the Divine Grimoire, so why not? Even if I die, I will close my eyes to see it. He carried the vengeful domain Emperor and walked confidently in front. Go! The Azure Wolf Kingdom's king and the Luluo Kingdom's king were originally a little hesitant, but seeing that someone was taking the lead, they were overjoyed and immediately followed. What about you guys? The king of Still Wind Kingdom, holding the Pearl Beauty in his arms, also wanted to follow and take a look, but found that Zhongguan, Bai Ma, Hei Tu, and the others were sitting down, as if they did not have the strength to move, and he was a little embarrassed. If these people did not go in, and the people he had received favors from a Russian to go in, if the young Master Titan knew, he would definitely be furious. Besides, if it were not for these guards, he and the others would have died long ago. We'll wait for young Master here. You guys go ahead. Zhongguan had been injured many times. He forced a smile and said, If young Master doesn't come back, we have no reason to live. If the monarch is righteous, please come and bury this corpse for us later. All right, Zhifeng will go first. The king of Still Wind Kingdom understood that these loyal guards would not be too far away from the young Master Titan. If it were not for the fact that their combat power was too weak, these guards would probably stay outside the Storm Sea and fight with the 8 generals. The young Master Titan was very strong, but apart from the Silent King, he still had to fight with a terrifying enemy like the Sun King. The odds were against him. It was reasonable that these guards were unwilling to leave. The king of Still Wind Kingdom wanted to stay and wait for Yu Yang with these loyal guards. Although the true identity of the young Master Titan was a rebel leader from the Tower of Babel, he treated him far better than his family and friends. However, the Pearl Beauty in his arms had already woken up, and she wanted to enter the Divine Grimoire to take a look. According to her words, first go into the Divine Grimoire to take a look. If there was really no chance to see the truth, Then come out and wait for the young Master Titan. The Pearl Beauty did not plead bitterly. She just looked at the king of Still Wind Kingdom with a very longing gaze. The heart of the king of Still Wind Kingdom was moved by her. He decided to temporarily bid farewell to Zhongguan and the other loyal guards, and take her into the divine grimoire to take a look. Your Majesty, we are weak and useless. It's better to stay. Manager Yi and head teacher Jean also wanted to enter the divine grimoire, but they all knew their limits, not to mention servants like them. Even the king of Still Wind Kingdom would be as difficult to protect himself as an ant in the divine grimoire. Instead of taking risks, it was better to stay here in the space channel with Zhongguan and the others. At least, staying with these people was the safest. Okay, you guys stay and wait. The king of Still Wind Kingdom could certainly feel the loyalty of Manager Yi and head teacher Jean, but he could not protect himself. It was already difficult to enter the divine grimoire with a Pearl Beauty in his arms. Exploring the dangerous divine grimoire world, it was impossible to divert his attention to take care of more people. It was also a good choice for Manager Yi and the others to stay. Seeing the king of Green Wolf Kingdom and the others enter the divine grimoire world from the ancient rune transmission array, the king of Still Wind Kingdom was a little hesitant. Should he go in, or turn back and wait for the young Master Titan to win? It was too selfish of him to abandon the young Master Titan, who was fighting fiercely, and enter this unknown divine grimoire world. If he encountered the double-faced king or the Sun King, wouldn't he be courting death? The Pearl Beauty in his arms did not urge him, but looked at his face with big bright eyes, waiting patiently. Usually, there were very few things that could make her desire so much. As a man, couldn't he go through fire and water for his lover? The king of Still Wind Kingdom kissed the Pearl Beauty's white, jade-like forehead, gently wiped away the little blood stains on her face, and used energy to make her little face glow again. Holding her carefully, as if holding the most precious treasure in the world, he stepped onto the divine wish transmission array. Storm Sea. Yu Yang and the Silent King looked at each other. Just like when he and the Sun King looked at each other, he looked at the Silent King without blinking, and the Silent King also stared at this dangerous young man with incomparable seriousness. Around Yu Yang's body, dots and dots of starlight unconsciously flashed. Although it was still daytime, the sky had gradually darkened. Night fell, and the dots of starlight were like innocent children blinking their big, curious eyes. Gradually, there were more and more, and finally, the entire Storm Sea was inlaid with beautiful stars. They were of different sizes, but all of them were lifelike and shone brighter than real stars. A beautiful Milky Way. A Milky Way filled with tens of billions of bright stars. They were born around Yu Yang's body and constantly rotated, covering the entire Storm Sea. The Storm Sea became the Sea of Tranquility again. The surface of the sea was as smooth as a mirror, reflecting the shining, beautiful starry sky. It was really hard to tell which was the starry sky and which was the sea. Yu Yang turned his hand. The sea and the starry sky both strangely flipped over. The whole world was flipped over, becoming the starry sky below and the sea above. The inverted starry sky and the sea were no different. When the blood of the people above and below dripped down, it strangely dripped down to the starry sky below. On the contrary, the seawater continued to be as smooth as a mirror, reflecting the starry sky. The seawater was clear and transparent, reflecting thousands of dots of starlight, as if the sea above was the real starry sky. Child's play. The Lion King was secretly shocked. He did not know how Yu Yang did it. He actually turned the world upside down, the starry sky upside down, and it was a true reversal of the world, the starry sky, and everyone in the Storm Sea. But his expression did not change at all, as if what Yu Yang did was an insignificant trick that even a 3-year-old child could not fool. Is that so? A mocking smile appeared on Yu Yang's lips. He flipped his hand again. Heaven and earth were reversed again, the starry sky above, and the sea returned to its original position. The corner of the Silent King's eyes twitched slightly, because he did not see any flaws in Yu Yang's two changes. If it was His Majesty the Sun King, he would definitely be able to see through the flaws and counter Titan Yu's domain. He clearly knew that Titan Yu's innate ability was the reversal innate ability, and that his domain was the starry sky domain, but he just couldn't counter it. This was the biggest difference between him and a top powerhouse. The smile on Yu Yang's face did not change. Once again, he flipped his hand to change the sky and earth. What made the Lion King and the rest panic was heaven and earth. Under the flipping of Yu Yang's palms, the world spun like a windmill. 10 turns, 100 turns, 1,000 turns. In the end, even someone as strong as the Lion King could not determine whether the sky above him was the starry sky, or whether the soles of his feet were the sea. Under such circumstances, if Titan Yu attacked, the consequences would be unimaginable. The Lion King and the Golden Crown King clenched their fists, while the 8 generals panicked and looked at the Silent King. The Silent King could not see through the mystery and could only guard his heart. Regardless of heaven and earth, regardless of the starry sky or the sea, his own combat strength and willpower remained the same. But he had already realized another point. This Titan Yu was not using this starry sky domain to target him, but his companions and subordinates. It could be said that this heaven and earth reversal and starry sky upside down were used to kill the Lion King, the Golden Crown King, and the 8 generals. With a wave of his hand, rays of guidance brilliance from the birth of the faith talent were released. He ordered the 8 generals under him to gather behind him. Although the Lion King and the Golden Crown King did not receive the guidance of the guidance brilliance, they knew that the Silent King was leaving them some face. Although they did not say anything, they secretly moved closer to the Silent King. When these people gathered their greatest strength and were ready to counterattack, Yu Yang smiled. He very politely made a welcoming gesture, like a hospitable host who happily welcomed his guests. Welcome to the Tower of Babel. This is the 9th level of the Heaven Stairway. This place is a little shabby, but as the host, we are still very hospitable. Tower of Babel? The 5th level of the Heaven Stairway? The Lion King's expression changed. This is specially designed by me to welcome everyone to the Tower of Babel. It's just a small token of my appreciation. Aren't you all very surprised? Yu Yang smiled radiantly. He had a flaw. When he smiled, people would feel that he was very handsome. But there was one bad thing about him. He was handsome with a bad side, making people feel like he deserved a beating. Chapter 9, 77. When Yu Yang flipped his palm again, what appeared in front of everyone was a wasteland that was in ruins. There were rocks all over the ground, not a single drop of water, not to mention the sea. In the distance, there was a collapsed valley. Silent King realized that the place where Yu Yang was standing was a blood-red altar, and there was a statue of a headless goddess with infinite power standing on it. If everything he had seen before was still an illusion, then the moment he saw the statue of the goddess, the Silent King knew that everyone, including himself, had really left the stormy sea and arrived at the 5th level of the Heaven Stairway mentioned by Titan Yu. How did Yu Yang Titan Yu do it? Silent King could not understand. However, he did not doubt it, because it was very simple. This Titan Yu could not have created the power of that goddess statue. That kind of power, although not offensive, was terrifyingly powerful. Even the Sun King, Eastern Palace Master, and even Ji Zun of the temple had to bow down to the power of this goddess statue. This was definitely the statue of an ancient god. Although he did not understand how a statue could hide the power of a god, it was the truth. Anyone who had not reached that realm could not create such an illusion. This place? I smell a terrifying aura. The dwarf among the 8 generals suddenly cried out in alarm. It's a kind of death aura. I'm sorry, the Empress died here. Maybe some of the death aura energy has not dissipated yet. Yu Yang explained lightly, as if the one he was killing here was not the 9 Lights Empress, but a hen. When the Lion King and the Golden Crown King heard this, their hearts sank again. Without the Sun King, could Silent King really fight against Yu Yang Titan Yu alone? Silent King frowned. He suddenly realized something. Why did this Yu Yang abandon the Sun King and come back to fight him? The reason was that he wanted to drag him to this Tong Tian Tower and stop him from returning to the temple to report his secret. Do you think that I can't report to the temple because of this? My beast had already left long ago. The Silent King didn't say it out loud, but he felt that he was cautious. After following the Sun King for so many years, he already knew the priorities of things. Although he did not return personally, how could he disobey the order to report to the Divine Hall? How could he throw it to the back of his mind? Now, the Mudskipper should have returned to that place. Although the Mudskipper dog's battle power was not strong, its speed was as fast as lightning, and it could not be killed by any external force. With its basic intelligence, it was not only the best beast for tracking enemies, it was also the best beast for carrying information. Its identity represented the most important information because it was a beast that only Hall Masters and above were qualified to own. In the Solar Divine Palace, even the Lion King and the Golden Crown King were not qualified to have Mudskipper dogs. Only the Sun King and himself had it. That place will definitely do its best to escort the Mudskipper to the Temple of Light when it sees the Mudskipper dog. Silent King sneered in his heart, but did not say it out loud. If you think that you can intercept the information by intercepting me, then you are wrong. He was gravely mistaken. Pa! Little Wen Li, who was standing behind Yu Yang, suddenly stepped forward and threw something. That black shadow fell heavily on the pile of rocks and couldn't help but let out a blood-curdling cry. Woof. Then, it jumped up and ran towards the Silent King as fast as lightning, like a pitiful wandering dog that sought its owner. When the Silent King saw the black shadow appear, it was as if his heart was punched by someone. It was so painful that he couldn't speak, and even his breathing stopped. However, Yu Yang was different. His body was light, and his mind was clear. He said with a face full of smiles, "The Silent King's watchdog is not bad. It runs very fast. I originally wanted to send my watchdog to chase after it, but that fellow underestimated me too much. It started too slow, and I actually couldn't catch up to it in a short period of time. My little darling is still the best. She used 100 teleportations and chased your watchdog back." The more amiable Yu Yang's smile was, the more bitter the Silent King felt. He really wanted to punch his Mudskipper dog to death. However, after calming down, he knew that it wasn't his Mudskipper dog that made a mistake. It was just that the silent little serpent demon Lowly was too strong. At first, he thought that the Mudskipper was the strongest. Who knew that this little serpent demon Lowly was more likely to be the strongest? A miniature version of the Conquest Queen? Seeing little Wen Li capture Silent King's Mudskipper dog, the Lion King, Golden Crown King, and the rest's expressions changed. What do we do now? No matter how brave the Lion King was, he would be lying if he said he wasn't a little nervous after suffering a series of blows. The Silent King made a series of hand signs. This set of hand signs was set by the Sun King before they set off. It was a special hand sign language created by the Sun God Palace. It replaced verbal commands and used secret hand signs to inform everyone to execute it. This was a secret hand sign language that could be used even by the enemy without fear of being leaked. Once the Silent King made a gesture, the Lion King and the rest immediately understood. Moreover, this was the last hand sign that the Sun King had instructed before setting up his plan. It could be said that this was also the most important hand sign language that would only be used when there was no other choice. This meant that the situation had already collapsed to the extreme. Everyone had to give up on their original mission and find a way to survive at the first possible moment. They had to leave on their own. The Silent King made another gesture. This meant that he would stay behind to stop Yu Yang. The Lion King and Golden Crown King would assist him and wait for the 8 generals to escape before leaving. As for the 8 generals, because of the temple's previous understanding of Tong Tian Tower and the latest information given by the clown, they all knew that staying in the Heaven Stairway was a dead end, and they would never be able to leave. They had to escape to the space-time crack in the 10th floor of Tong Tian Tower and return to the Heaven Realm through the space-time crack. Of course, if it really didn't work, they could also hide and wait for the gate of Heaven Realm that opened once every 100 years. However, That route was no different from a dead end. Without the strength of a demigod, no one dared to say that they could pass through the shattered void and reach the gate of Heaven Realm. Unless the people in the temple that guarded the gate of Heaven Realm knew that their companions were in need of help in advance and received them from afar. When the Silent King saw that the 8 generals were still looking at him, he couldn't help but be furious. With a wave of his hand, he sent the poet and the other subordinates flying 10,000 meters away. According to the clown's information, other than Yu Yang, Titan Yu, and Ji Zun, there was no one else in Tong Tian Tower who was slightly stronger. The entire Tong Tian Tower had just risen, and there weren't many warriors with the strength of Earth rank, let alone Heaven rank. With the strength of the 8 generals, if Yu Yang didn't chase after them, they could totally sweep through Tong Tian Tower and return to the Heaven Realm calmly. Even if Ji Zun and Night Empress tried to stop them, he believed that a few of them would be able to escape. Only one of them could escape and report the news of Yu Yang to the Deity Templar. The Deity Templar would definitely attack Tong Tian Tower at all costs. Let's go. There's no point for us to stay. The poet was the calmest. Although he was brought to the Heaven Stairway by Yu Yang, he was still rational. He took the initiative to stand out and lead the group to leave. Not long after they set off, they were worried that Yu Yang would abandon the Silent King and follow behind them. After a quick discussion with the most experienced long-bearded old man and the strongest fool, they decided to split up and leave. I'll bring up the rear. The fool didn't dare to be lazy anymore and decided to stay at the back. Let's meet again in the 10th floor of Tong Tian Tower. The long-bearded old man agreed to split up. He brought the fatty and the dwarf along with him, while the poet brought the barbarian tribe and the hanged man along with him. If they split up into 3 groups, even if Yu Yang chased after them, there would definitely be 2 groups that survived. Moreover, there was still the Silent King, Lion King, and Golden Crown King behind them. It was said that other than Yu Yang, Ji Zun, and Night Empress, there was no one else who was a Heaven ranker in Tong Tian Tower. Even a king-level warrior from Heaven Realm could do whatever he wanted. Any random person from Sun God Palace could defeat Heaven Realm's king. With the 7 generals here, why would they need to worry about their future? Other than Yu Tai Tan, the new prison emperor, who was strong enough, Tong Tian Tower had fallen for a long time. They weren't a threat at all. Before the poet split up, he comforted his companions. Then, everyone hurried on their way. Although there weren't any strong people in Tong Tian Tower, it was still a scary place. Who knew what would happen? This wasn't Heaven Realm. It wasn't their territory. It was better to take it easy and not be too arrogant. If they provoked Yu Yang and made him his target, it would be terrible. At this time, the poet and the other strong warriors didn't care about their demeanor anymore. They quickly split up and searched for teleportation circles. If this was Tong Tian Tower, it would be better. The clown's information had the location of the teleportation circles in every level of Tong Tian Tower. But this was Heaven's Stairway, a wasteland that no one had ever set foot on before. Previously, no one cared about the information here. The poet brought the barbarian tribe Savage and the hanged man along the canyon. Before they flew for more than 100 kilometers, an earth-shattering battle broke out behind them. The entire ground was shaking. The shockwave swept up rocks and sand, covering the sky. It was unknown if it was due to good luck or something else, but the poet, who couldn't find the teleportation circle for a long time, saw a fatty who looked like he deserved a beating. He brought a dozen young human men and women running towards him from afar. Isn't this the perfect hostage? As long as he captured these weak humans and let them lead the team, wouldn't it be fine? Without waiting for the poet to give the order, the barbarian tribe Savage and the hanged man had already rushed out. Fuck. When the leader of the group saw the barbarian tribe Savage and the hanging man, his face turned pale with fright. He shouted like a pig being slaughtered, "Come quickly! We have caught up. There are enemies here. So strong. These 2 guys are at least Heaven Stage level 6. You guys attack." "You're not going?" A tall and skinny warrior beside the fatty kicked the fatty angrily. "Me? If I go, I'll just be throwing my life away." The fatty knew himself very well. Not just Heaven rank level 6. In the crowd, another cool young man stepped forward. The poet noticed that this kid looked a bit like God's retribution. They both had a special temperament, but his power was much weaker than God's retributions. He was still very young, just like a teenager. Of course not. Although we haven't comprehended divine sense, our strength has already surpassed the average heaven rank level 6 with divine sense. If it wasn't for the temple's rule that one must have quasi-divine sense to be called heaven rank level 6, and only those who have complete divine sense can be called heaven rank level 7, we would have reached heaven rank level 7 long ago. Hello, I'm a general of the Sun God Palace who has comprehended quasi-divine sense. You can call me Poet. The poet first scanned the group of people cautiously. When he realized that no one had the strength of heaven rank, he came out with a peace of mind. Not to mention the three of them. Even a heaven rank warrior could sweep them away. No wonder there was no one in Tong Tian Tower. It turned out that the juniors here were really weak and pitiful. Does possessing divine sense equal to comprehending sovereign will? A little girl in the team asked her companion. It should be. The heaven realm has a different name from ours. The tall and skinny man explained in a low voice. The poet could tell at a glance that this little girl actually had the highest position in the crowd. She should be some kind of royal family, maybe even a human princess. I comprehended sovereign will in the gate of life and death. It's a pity that my strength is not enough. I haven't reached the innate sovereign realm yet. Maybe this is what they meant by quasi-divine sense. The poet saw that the little girl suddenly clenched her fists and stepped out from the crowd. She issued a challenge to him. General from the heaven realm, let me fight with you. Let's see if your quasi-divine sense is stronger or if my immovable sovereign will is stronger. Bing Air, we don't need to fight one-on-one. We have a lot of people. Let's just gang up on him. Fatty, Skinny, and the others hurriedly persuaded the little girl to change her mind. With just you? The hanging man sneered and snorted disdainfully. Her identity is the most honorable. Take her as a hostage. The poet also felt that this little girl had never seen the world. She must have been spoiled by her elders since she was young. She completely didn't know what a real battle was. She even thought that all kinds of performances under the luxurious clothes were real battles. A real battle where life and death could be decided in an instant was not something a little girl like her could participate in. This was really too ridiculous. The hanging man's movement technique was incomparably strange. His movements were as fast as lightning. In the blink of an eye, he had already appeared behind the little girl. His long hands were like claws, grabbing the back of the little girl's neck. When he grabbed the little girl, he was also prepared. If the little girl's companions came to her rescue, he would immediately release a ring-shaped shockwave to shake off the group of people. If it wasn't for the fact that he wanted to capture her alive as a hostage, the hanging man felt that he had 100 ways to kill the other party in a second. Suddenly, the hanging man felt the world spinning. He flew out and crashed into the stone wall of the canyon. He was so dizzy that he didn't understand what was going on. Could it be that the terrifying Yu Yang had caught up? Impossible, he was clearly still fighting with the Lion King, Golden Crown King, and the Silent King. However, at the moment when its fist was about to land, the little girl who didn't look very powerful had already gotten close to it and pressed her palm on its chest. Rumble. The barbarian tribe's huge body slid backward, his legs deeply embedded into the stone surface. He tried to stabilize his body, but the irresistible force made his body keep moving backward. His legs carved out 200 meters deep pits on the stone surface before he gradually stabilized himself. The barbarian tribe's body was as strong as a dragon's. He vomited a mouthful of green blood. The poet saw this incredible scene, and his eyes widened. Impossible. This is impossible. Brother's right. An attack with the will of a supreme martial artist can directly hit the soul. External forces can't resist it at all. The little girl named Bing Air defeated 2 warriors with one move. Although it was only a slight setback, she was so happy that she jumped up. She looked at her hands in disbelief. I can help brother beat the bad guys now. Don't underestimate the enemy. The enemy's strength is still above us. The attack just now was just because they were too careless. They almost didn't get hurt. The poet saw a noble beauty in luxurious clothes caressing the little girl's head. She seemed to be her elder. Behind the little girl, there was a masked woman who was floating in the air and sitting on a spirit mirror. She was smiling and encouraging the little girl. Being heir, if you use the power of ancient runes, the effect will be better. However, I can't believe that you can fight against the warriors of the Solar Divine Palace now. Yes, I will work harder. The little girl clenched her small pink fist. No matter how the poet looked, he couldn't see that the two attacks just now were made by her. That's not right. How could such a weak human girl defeat the hanging man and the barbarian with one move? There are only 3 here. The number is not right. These cunning guys split up halfway. There are still a few that we didn't catch. It's okay. There are still the warlike guys from the demonic palace and the demonic abyss. It's definitely not enough to deal with them alone. Sister Sky Law and Sister Sky Calamity have already rushed over. It's okay. Then what are we waiting for? Let's fight quickly. Otherwise, we will be robbed again. Princess Fallen Flowers, you fight that poet. Inan and Sister Bing Air fight that white-eyed stalker. We will gang up on this stupid barbarian. Fatty continued to gesticulate about the arrangement. The poet still felt strange until now. Why did these people dare to challenge him? Since when could the elite warriors of the Solar Divine Palace of the Central Shrine be bullied by Earth rank warriors? Die! The hanging man flew out from the rock and fiercely charged towards the little girl called Bing Air, who attacked him just now. His speed was extremely fast. Forest of Life. The poet saw that the little girl calmly summoned her grimoire. It was actually a high-ranked platinum grimoire that many elders, clan leaders, high lords, and even the vice palace masters didn't have. Once the grimoire was summoned, a protective shield appeared. The hanging man who originally thought that he could instantly kill the little girl in the protective shield realized that he was bound. Countless strange vines and towering trees formed by runes erupted around the little girl's body. In an instant, a boundless ancient forest was formed. It also formed a forest domain that couldn't be defended by human strength. This forest domain was connected to the heaven and earth. If one wanted to shake it, they would undoubtedly shake the entire heaven and earth. The little girl shouted, and the energy in her body exploded. An overwhelming will emerged from her small body and formed an indescribable power that suppressed the hanging man. The 2 Trant warriors that the poet had never seen before jumped out and heavily trampled on the hanging man's body. This was not the end. Another guardian spirit beast flew out. With her support, the entire ancient forest-like domain immediately increased in quantity. The girl's willpower was also pushed to its limit. Even the poet, who was outside the battle circle, couldn't help but take a step back from the shock. What? This hidden power? How could it be so terrifying? The poet couldn't help but cry out in shock. Now he suddenly understood why this little girl dared to challenge him. It was because she actually had the power close to heaven ranked level 6. The strangest thing was that she wasn't even a heaven ranked ranker. She was obviously an earth ranked ranker. Once her hidden power was unsealed, how could she have a power close to heaven ranked level 6? The scariest thing was that this little girl had comprehended divine sense without being a heaven-ranked ranker. From the looks of it, her divine sense was comparable to his. The more the poet thought, the more shocked he became. Suddenly, he had a flash of inspiration and shouted, I understand. You are Titan You, sister." Other than Titan You, that abnormal genius, the poet couldn't think of a second possibility. Only his sister could be so powerful. Hearing the poet shout, the fatty who looked like he deserved a beating suddenly smiled and asked, "You guessed it right. However, can you guess who I am? Stand firm. Pay attention. Don't let me scare you to the ground. The one standing in front of you, the elegant, tall, mighty, handsome, and confident jade-faced gentleman, Haidafu, is me. The Titan you speak of, he's actually my little brother. As a boss, I have no choice but to show you how powerful I am. Take a look. I'm going to use my ultimate move. It's none of my business if you guys cry in fear." Hearing this, the poet was immediately dumbfounded. His jaw dropped to the ground. Chapter 978. Blood Altar. The Lion King's huge mouth shot out 19 lion-spit wind consecutively. In the Silent King's prayer domain, this extremely aggressive light pillar energy received the greatest boost. It was dark gold in color and looked like a solid substance. Any heaven ranker below the king level would die on the spot if they were hit by any one of them. Just this was not enough. Silent King's guardian beast, Devout, with the help of its master's faith-inherent skill, personally guided the 19 destructive lion spit wind with its mind. All 19 lion spit wind hit Yu Yang's body. Not a single one missed. Boom, 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 boom. A series of explosions erupted around the blood altar. Shockwaves distorted and tore the surrounding space. Huge chunks of the mountain in the valley collapsed. Huge rocks flew into the air, and mud and smoke filled the air, covering the sky. At the center of the explosion, it was like a shattered sun. It was so bright that no one could open their eyes. The fireball was still burning in the sky for a long time. Lightning danced like a golden snake. If such a terrifying attack were to land on someone else, the Lion King would not doubt if his enemy would still be alive, because it was impossible. However, when a 19 lion spit wind hit Yu Yang, the new prison emperor, the Lion King, did not dare to guarantee that it would be effective. For a young man who could turn the sky and the earth with a flip of his hand, easily turning the sky upside down, for a young man who could secretly deceive the meticulous Sun King, escape from the divine grimoire, return to the stormy ocean, deceive Silent King and a large group of people, and use an unknown secret skill to teleport all his companions to the 5th floor of the heaven stairway of Tong Tian Tower. Could such a young man really be killed by a 19 lion spit wind? It was already not bad if it could seriously injure him. This was how the Lion King comforted himself. If not for Silent King trying his best to hold this young man back, he would not have had the chance to use the 19 lion spit wind. Fortunately, no matter what, the 19 lion spit wind had hit its target. No matter how abnormal his fighting power was, his body was still human. As long as he had a human body, there was no reason for him not to be injured. The human body was the most fragile of all creatures. In front of a powerful race, the human body was simply synonymous with weakness. Yu Yang, who had been hit 19 times by the lion's breath jet, was also silent for a long time. He didn't make a single sound, nor did he sense any aura. Could he really have been killed by this sneak attack? How could that be possible? The Silent King's divine power heavy palm was also effective. Could it be that this kid's body could resist spiritual sense attacks, but not energy jets? His weakness was that he couldn't withstand the impact and burning of energy. If that was the case, how did this kid survive the energy storm of the Sun King's explosion? Is he really dead? Golden Crown King and Lion King looked at each other in confusion. The two of them moved forward slightly, with the Silent King holding the fort. They waved their hands together. The palm wind formed a fierce gale. It engulfed the entire heaven and earth, as if a hurricane had passed through. The gale swept away all the smoke and gravel, revealing the empty blood-red altar. There was no one on the blood-red altar, as if silently proving the fact that the young man who stood there had been killed. This result made the Lion King and Golden Crown King both surprised and happy. It couldn't be. Was this a dream, or was it real? Isn't the human body too fragile? Golden Crown King's voice was trembling with joy. Not necessarily. Lion King was overjoyed, but he spoke modestly. After all, the Silent King was the main contributor. Just as the two of them were about to go forward to check the traces, the Silent King's pupils suddenly contracted, as if he had seen something terrifying. He slowly turned back. The horrified expression on his face was like a normal person who had seen a ghost. Both the Lion King and Golden Crown King were shocked by the Silent King's abnormal reaction. They rushed forward a few steps at the same time, and then leaped back, afraid that someone would attack them when they turned around. There was no attack, and there was no one behind him at all. There was only an empty world, a void ruins filled with rubble. As the mountain wind blew, There was an indescribable desolation in the entire wasteland. Is there something wrong? Lion King couldn't tell. Everything is normal. Golden Crown King looked left and right, but didn't find anything unusual. The Silent King didn't say anything. Suddenly, he ruthlessly kicked the mud-skipper dog at his feet, sending it flying in a semicircle, crashing heavily into the mountain wall tens of thousands of meters away. That's a mudskipper dog. The Lion King's heart ached for the Silent King. That was a mudskipper dog that only Hall Masters and above could possess. How could it be kicked away? Moreover, with this kind of strength, the mudskipper dog would definitely be heavily injured. Although the Silent King was extremely serious, he had always treated his beasts well. The mudskipper dog was also his beloved beast, so there was no reason for him to do this. What was going on? Golden Crown King was also shocked, but he soon discovered the problem. The mudskipper dog crashed into the mountain wall. The impact caused the mountain wall to collapse. However, there wasn't the expected scream. The mudskipper dog didn't make sound. It just shattered into a pile of rubble. Fake. The mudskipper dog at the Silent King's feet was actually a fake. If it was an enemy, then wouldn't the three of them be in danger? The Lion King and Golden Crown King couldn't understand how this living mudskipper dog was replaced by Yu Yang as a rock. Where did the real mudskipper dog go? Woof, woof, woof. A few barks rang out. Under the dumbfounded gaze of the Lion King and Golden Crown King, there was another living mudskipper dog at the Silent King's feet. Was this one real or fake? The Silent King's expression changed. He raised both of his palms and exploded with all his strength. Together with his guardian beast Devout, they formed a divine sense energy ball that was as large as a sun. As soon as the flame sun spiritual energy ball came out, it heavily smashed onto the ground, scaring the Lion King and the Golden Crown King. If it exploded, not to mention the hidden enemy, even they themselves would be severely injured, just as the two of them sprinted towards the sky with all their might to avoid the explosion. Suddenly, the world changed. It was as if a curtain was gently lifted, revealing a stage. It was also like a light breeze blowing away the smoke that shrouded the earth, restoring the original appearance of the world. In short, in an instant, the world had completely changed. The original broken canyon, desolate wasteland ruins, and the blood-red altar with the statue of the goddess had all disappeared. The Lion King realized that the three of them were hanging upside down, standing upside down at the top of the sky. Below them was a boundless snowfield. Everywhere in the sky, there seemed to be ice blocks of different sizes floating, but they were all melting at an indescribably slow speed. The Silent King raised his arm and realized that his skin was also melting continuously. Only now did he realize that his body was being devoured by a terrifying and irresistible divine power. This devouring speed was very slow, but it was irresistible. Compared to this devouring space, the energy in his body was as insignificant as a clay ox entering the sea. Silent King, I was wondering who was so arrogant and dared to barge into Tong Tian Tower. So it's you. An angelic voice came from an ice palace on the snowfield. This voice wasn't loud, but it resounded through the entire world of ice and snow. In the ears of the Silent King, the Lion King, and the Golden Crown King, it was as powerful as a hammer striking their hearts. An absolute confidence that couldn't be described by any words in the world pierced into the minds of the Silent King and the others like an arrow, forcefully digging a hole in their minds. When the Silent King heard this heavenly and gentle voice, he shuddered and cold sweat broke out on his forehead. You are Jizun? Previously, the Lion King had obtained information about Tong Tian Tower from the clown. He knew that other than the new prison emperor, Yu Yang, the strongest person in Tong Tian Tower was a woman called Jizun. It's a little familiar. The Golden Crown King tried hard to recall. He felt that this voice was a little familiar, as if he had heard it somewhere before. Let me introduce. Yu Yang appeared out of nowhere at this moment. He clapped his hands and gestured for everyone to look at him. He had a smile on his face. It was a smile with a hint of naughtiness that made people want to punch him. When Yang came out, little Wenli naturally followed behind him. With a light wave of her hand, she threw the muddy dog onto the surface of the snowfield. Once the muddy dog regained its freedom, it immediately wanted to escape back to the Silent King's side. However, this time wasn't like the time at the blood altar. When a muddy dog jumped up from the snowfield, it immediately froze into ice cubes. Its momentum didn't change. Although it died on the spot and its corpse turned into ice, the force of the jump caused it to fly all the way to the Silent King's feet. Through the ice, the Lion King could see the surprise when it found its master, as well as the eagerness to return to its master's side. The muddy dog was similar to a guardian beast to a certain extent. It would almost never die. Now, the Lion King was 100% sure that the muddy dog was dead, and it was definitely incurable. It died under the power of the ancient code that was comparable to a god. Under this power of the ancient code, not to mention a muddy dog, even a divine beast would find it hard to survive. The strangest thing was that the muddy dog was killed by the power of the ancient code and turned into ice, but it didn't exist forever like ordinary ice corpses. Another kind of equally terrifying divine power directly devoured all the energy of its corpse, under the situation of losing the support of its willpower. The ice corpse disappeared at a speed visible to the naked eye. It first turned into powder, then into nothingness. It really disappeared forever. Cough, cough. I seem to have introduced a little late. But it's okay. I believe you have seen it. This is the black hole space, the sealed place of the ancient gods. Below, it is the ice world that Her Majesty Queen Vivian Li is building. Because the ice world has not been completed, the ice palace is also a little crude. However, as the disciple of Her Majesty Queen Vivian Li, there is no reason for me not to welcome all of you esteemed guests. Yang apologized very sincerely. Previously at the 5th floor of the Heaven Stairway, I was really rude. I have just become the new prison emperor, so I don't know the etiquette and have neglected everyone. I'm really sorry. I hope that everyone can forgive me this once for the sake of Her Majesty. Those who didn't know would think that Yu Yang was treating them to a meal. His sincerity was really quite sufficient. At least, that was how it looked on the surface. A drop of sweat dripped from Silent King's forehead. He was now a little aware of the seriousness of the consequences. It was no longer as simple as dying in battle. If the Conquest Queen made a move, he was afraid that everyone, including himself, would be captured. Once captured, he might not even be able to keep the secret of the Divine Palace, let alone Lion King and Golden Crown King. It's over. The Conquest Queen was about to break through the black hole seal and reappear. He hurriedly made a self-destructing gesture towards Lion King and Golden Crown King. Lion King and Golden Crown King were shocked. Self-destructing? They didn't even see the Conquest Queen, and they were going to self-destruct? Although the Conquest Queen was strong, she had exhausted all her energy in the sealed space and might be very weak. She was just scaring them now. If they were to self-destruct without understanding, wouldn't their sacrifice be in vain? You want to die? It's not that easy. A golden light flashed, faster than sound. The heavenly words reverberated in the ears of Lion King and Golden Crown King. Their eyes had already seen a horrifying scene. Silent King, who was about to self-destruct, had his head pressed down by a woman in crystal armor. Instantly, his entire body turned into ice, and he became an ice sculpture. That woman took down Silent King in one move and slowly turned her face, revealing a breathtakingly beautiful face. Even if Lion King and Golden Crown King didn't recognize their parents, they would recognize this face. This was because the owner of this face had once shaken the entire heaven realm. She had almost single-handedly defeated the central shrine. When they saw this, it was as if their hearts were struck by lightning. They couldn't help but exclaim at the same time, "The Conquest Queen!" Queen Vivian Li's bright eyes swept across them, as if she was looking at two little bugs with disdain. Her murderous aura soared to the sky. Her voice was colder than ice. "Do you want me to make a move or surrender?" Lion King was known as the bravest warrior in the entire central shrine. But at this moment, he was scared out of his wits and almost knelt down. He tried hard to swallow his saliva and opened his mouth to beg for mercy. However, he found that his throat was strangely dry and he couldn't speak at all. Kneel down. I haven't come out for 10,000 years. Do you little bugs think that there's no one left in Tong Tian Tower? Queen Vivian Li was very angry. The consequences would be severe. Chapter 979. With the invincible might of Queen Vivian Li, Yu Yong finally didn't have to worry about dealing with the Silent King. With his current strength, he would definitely be able to win against the Silent King. The problem was what kind of price he would have to pay. No matter how perfect Yu Yang's battle tactics and tactics were, he wouldn't have the strength to challenge the Sun King after defeating the Silent King in a one-on-one battle. In order to save the most energy and deal with the Sun King who had entered the grimoire, Yu Yong had painstakingly thought of a scheme to deceive everyone. First, he used the reality of illusion that reversed the stars in heaven and earth to deceive the enemy. Then, he lured the Silent King and the rest from the stormy ocean in the heaven realm to the heaven stairway. Then, while the enemies were panicking, he used the reality of illusion again to secretly send the main target, the Silent King, into the world of ice and snow in the black hole sealed space. When Queen Vivian Li appeared, even a powerful person like the Silent King was scared out of his wits and didn't dare to fight at all. In fact, due to the difference in levels and strength between the two, there wasn't much to compare. Even in front of Queen Vivian Li, who hadn't recovered her full strength, the Silent King was far from being a match for her. He couldn't even self-destruct. With just one move, the invincible Queen of Conquest took him down. In the black hole-sealed space, in the world of ice and snow built by Queen Vivian Li, not to mention the Silent King, even if the Sun King came personally, he would definitely be defeated. This was no different from when Yu Yong barged into the central shrine and was ganged up on by Ji Wuri, the Sun King and the Eastern Palace Master. It was even worse. Even if Queen Vivian Li ignored the Silent King, he would never be able to get out. Even if the Silent King never stepped into the world of ice and snow and was not restricted by Queen Vivian Li's divine power, he would still be swallowed alive by the black hole. When Yu Yong used the world-exterminating wheel to split the Silent King in half, the frozen soul was first burned by Yu Yang's nirvana flame, allowing him to experience the feeling of ice and fire. Then, under the seal of Yu Yang's supreme will and domain of creation, he was locked in the demon-suppressing tower forever. Lion King and Golden Crown King immediately knelt down. He had no choice but to kneel. No one would be able to withstand such a combination of ice and fire, not to mention himself. Even if the Sun King came personally, he would also have to kneel in this kind of hopeless situation. Queen Vivian Li alone was already terrifying enough. There was still Titan Yu, who possessed the world-exterminating wheel and nirvana flame. Furthermore, they were trapped in the black hole-sealed space that they could never escape from. How could they survive? I won't make things difficult for you. No one believed Yu Yang's words, but they had no choice. Their lives were already in his hands. They had no choice but to listen. Go in yourself, Queen Vivian Li shouted. Lion King and Golden Crown King shivered and automatically entered the demon-suppressing tower's inner space. As for when they would be released, it would depend on Yu Yang's mood. However, no matter how long they stayed in the dark prison, it was still better than being executed on the spot. At least they would still be alive. What Lion King and Golden Crown King were most worried about was not being executed, but being unable to live or die. Under the torture of Queen Vivian Li's peerless ice and Yu Yang's nirvana flame, even if they had the immortal body, indestructible godhead, and unmoving divine sense, they still wouldn't be able to endure it. In order to avoid physical pain, Lion King and Golden Crown King chose to surrender like many of the seniors from the Central Shrine who had fought against Queen Vivian Li before. It was better to be captured with dignity than to resist stubbornly. If they didn't have to die, who would desire the shrine to award a brave warrior's medal? Little fellow, you really don't need my help to fight against the Sun King. Towards her enemies, Her Majesty Empress Fei Wen Li was a conquering queen who could instantly kill all living things. Towards Yu Yang, she was naturally full of smiles and joy. Taking down the Silent King just now has already consumed a lot of your energy. Don't waste it. Leave the Sun King to me. Yu Yang knew how difficult it was to recover energy in the Black Hole Seal. Moreover, Queen Vivian Li still had to build the Ice World. If she helped him to fight against the Sun King, then the day she could leave would be far away. Most importantly, the Sun King was cautious and meticulous. With the strength of a quasi-god, it was impossible for him to be deceived like the Silent King. Even the Silent King was only deceived because Yu Yang first went from the Storm Sea to the 5th level of the Heaven Stairway. If not for his chaotic state of mind, how could Yu Yang deceive the Silent King? It was really not easy. It was almost impossible to trick the Sun King into the black hole space. If he let Queen Vivian Li break out of the Black Hole Seal, she probably would not have much energy left to help in the battle. She would also have to give up the ice world that she had painstakingly built for a long time. This was something that Yu Yang did not want to see. Of course, with Yu Yang's little bit of manly pride, he also felt that the most powerful enemy should be dealt with by a real man. How could Queen Vivian Li not understand Yu Yang's intention? She rolled her eyes at him with a hint of rebuke. Compared to the ice world, she was more worried about his safety. Yu Yang pretended to smile and scratched the back of his head. Her Majesty Queen Vivian Li's expression changed. She became serious when it came to business. With your current strength, it's almost impossible to defeat the Sun King. Even if you give it your all, I reckon that there's only a 1 in 10 chance of winning. Yu Yang did not doubt this 1 in 10 chance. In fact, it would be good if there was even a 1 in 10 chance. His original estimate was 1 in 100. The Sun King is very powerful for you now, but it's not completely impossible to defeat him. In terms of strength, he is on par with Ji Wuri, but he's not as good as Ji Wuri. The reason is that the Sun King has a weakness that Ji Wuri doesn't have. As long as you can grasp this weakness, then it's possible to defeat him. Queen Vivian Li smiled. You went through all the trouble to open the passage to the Divine Grimoire and let him enter the Divine Grimoire. You must have seen a little. Yes, his weakness will be doubled in the Divine Grimoire space. You did a good job. However, even so, the Sun King is still very powerful. You have to be extra careful. I didn't see any weakness. I just think that my advantage in the Divine Grimoire will be greater than his. Yu Yang humbly asked the queen for advice. His Heaven Eye's divine vision could see through everything, but he didn't see much on the Sun King. If he wasn't greedy, you little guy, even if you improved, you wouldn't be able to touch him. Queen Vivian Li was very satisfied with Yu Yang's action of luring the Sun King into the Divine Grimoire. Then what should I do now? Yu Yang asked. Let me spank you as punishment for waking me up from my sweet dream this time. I'll consider whether to tell you. Queen Vivian Li raised a white jade arm. Change it to a kiss. Yu Yang's shamelessness was definitely at the Grandmaster level. He quickly pulled up that soft hand and gave a crisp and loud kiss on the white orchid-like fingertips. The exciting attack made the queen, who wanted to joke with Yu Yang, tremble. She hurriedly retracted her hand and didn't dare to stretch it out again. She was deeply afraid that this brat would take an inch and keep kissing her. All right, I won't joke with you anymore. Hurry up and go do your work. Queen Vivian Li glared at him. All kinds of flirtatious and peerless charm were all in those bright starry eyes. At this moment, there was nothing to say. Her intentions were clear. Yu Yang couldn't help but hug the beauty and fiercely kiss her seductive cherry lips. Little Wen Li shyly covered her little face with her little hands. However, her fingers were slightly open, and she was a little curious as she peeked at her parents' intimacy. After leaving the black hole sealed space, Yu Yang was still a little drunk. For a moment, he wasn't able to recover from the queen's sweet tenderness. Little Wen Li threw herself behind him and held his head with her little hands. She pouted her little pink lips and signaled Yu Yang to kiss her too. Pa. Yu Yang generously rewarded the little darling with a few loud kisses. If it was a normal day, the little fellow would definitely be very happy. But now, she was a little dissatisfied. She refused to come down because she wanted Daddy to kiss her little lips, just like how he kissed her mother, not on her forehead. If you're not obedient, I'll spank you. Yu Yang looked around with a guilty conscience. Seeing that there was no one around, he hugged the little fellow and kissed her on her pink lips. He kissed her lightly, as if he would hurt her if he kissed her even a little too hard. Little Wenli was happy and satisfied. She smiled until her little nose wrinkled. She was incomparably cute. Don't tell anyone, Yu Yang specially warned. Yes, yes. The little fellow nodded her head desperately. She was an obedient little accomplice, who knew how many bad things she had done for Yu Yang. Blood altar. When Yu Yang returned, there were already 4 more women. From the left, it was Man, Red, and Ika. As for the one who flew over and threw herself into Yu Yang's arms, it was the golden-crowned thorny flower queen, Duo. In order to fight against the Sun King, Yu Yang didn't dare to be negligent. Without the help of outsiders, he gathered all his beasts. Although the training time wasn't too long, there were no more bottlenecks because of Yu Yang's breakthrough to the Peeping God Realm. Their training on the Heaven Stairway World Tree could be said to have advanced by leaps and bounds. After not seeing each other for a day, they had to look at each other in a different light. Not to mention that they had worked together and trained hard for half a year. In order to welcome their return, Yu Yang hugged each of them one by one and gave affirmation to them. Where's Jiangying and the dragon ladies and the rest? Yu Yang caressed Ika's little head. When not in a state of battle, she looked like Yu Bing. Although she could also transform into the little girl Yu Bing, she seemed to prefer to become a learner like Yu Bing. They haven't come down yet. It will probably take another 10 minutes. Red and Yu Yang had the closest relationship. She had become the sister of the girls and was responsible for everything. In that case, let's go see Bing Air and the rest first. Although Yu Yang was worried that the battle with the Sun King would be too destructive and he would not dare to bring Yu Bing and the rest along, it was not bad to comfort them before the battle. At this time, 500 miles to the northwest, Impatience was furious. Damn it, it's fine if that guy didn't bring us to fight the Sun King, but he didn't even come see us. When he comes back, let's see if I still care about him. Sky Disaster and the Southern Demon King were secretly happy. As for the people of the Demonic Palace, the Eastern Goblin Tribe, and the Demon Kings in the Abyss, they all pretended not to hear it. Now that Sky Law was angry, who would dare to offend her? Offending her was more terrifying than offending Yu Yang. When this Sky Law girl's temper flared up, even Sky Execution would have a headache. In the huge encirclement, Long Beard, one of the 8 generals, had fallen to the ground. He was unlucky enough to bump into the muzzle of Sky Law. 10,000 Sky Law lightning formed by the power of the ancient code. They all hit Longbeard's head. This kind of terrifying lightning. Not to mention the 8 generals. Even a Lion King would become a flaming hedgehog if he was hit by it. The dwarf and the fat man were hugging each other, their teeth chattering as they fought. They realized that this large group of human warriors, demons from the Abyss, and the Eastern Goblin Tribe were not even half as terrifying as this bad-tempered beauty. Could it be that this woman was the Ji Zun who was known as the strongest in Tong Tian Tower, according to the clown's intelligence? Chapter 980. The Divine Grimoire Space. The king of the Still Wind Kingdom, the Pearl Beauty, and the others had never entered the Divine Grimoire Space before. Now, they found that after passing through the ancient rune teleportation array, they had come to a wonderful world. Here, there was a golden shield, shaped like the top of the sky, covering their heads. Looking around, there were gardens everywhere, and the fragrance was refreshing. According to the golden shield above their heads, the diameter of this divine grimoire space was at least nearly 100 kilometers. In this huge divine grimoire space, there were many large and small spaces. Each and every one of them was covered by a smaller golden shield. Some were located in front, and some were suspended in the air. Some even combined together, with the giant spherical shield as the center and a few smaller spherical shields constantly rotating, using an indescribable and mysterious power of laws. However, Even the smallest spherical shield space was about 1 square kilometer in size, and the larger ones were even tens of square kilometers. There was a translucent golden shield. Looking inside, one would find that there was a world inside, full of vitality. If one looked at the center, the first thing that caught the eyes of the Lord of the Still Wind Kingdom, the Lord of the Azure Wolf Kingdom, and the Lord of the Luo Kingdom was a golden palace that towered into the clouds. No one could have imagined that a palace could be built to such an extent. It was not that there were no capable people in the heaven realm, and it was not that the lords and city lords did not have the desire to compete, but the Lord of the Still Wind Kingdom and the others could be sure of one thing, and that was that even if they exhausted their entire life's energy and time, it would still be impossible to complete this palace. The Green Willow City Lord's residence was as high as 1,000 meters. Compared to this golden palace, it was like a flea placed in front of a mammoth, completely incomparable. I think even the central shrine on the holy mountain of light can't match it. The Lord of the Still Wind Kingdom had never been to the holy mountain of light, nor had he worshipped the central shrine. He had only heard about it in legends and seen its image in pictures. He had thought that the central shrine was already the best in the heaven realm. Never would he have thought that in this unknown divine grimoire space, there would be a super huge palace that made people feel small. Indeed, only such a palace was worthy of the gods living in. The Lord of the Still Wind Kingdom had never seen a god before, but when he saw the palace where a god lived, he immediately realized the gap between him and a god. It was really not just big. The difference between a flea and an elephant? Perhaps even more. What was an ant? In front of God, people like him were undoubtedly ants. If I can become the master of this palace, even if it's only for one day, I will be able to die in peace. The Emperor of the Green Wolf Empire sighed deeply. In truth, he was just saying it casually. To be able to enter the divine grimoire and see such a splendid building, to see such a golden palace where gods resided, he already had no regrets. Should I go forward, or should I find the inner space of the golden shield to test it out? The sovereign of the Luo Kingdom realized something. All the shields here, including the huge golden shield outside, were protected by nomological powers. There were countless ancient runic arrays revolving on them. Including the golden palace, there was also a golden shield outside. He probably wouldn't be able to enter easily. If he could find a small space, there might be a way. Moreover, what worried him the most was that the Sun King must have already entered. If he also chose the Golden Palace, wouldn't everyone be sending themselves to their deaths if they went? Without Titan Yu, who would be a match for the Sun King? The Lord of the Still Wind Kingdom looked at the pearl glowing beauty. He wanted to see what this beloved treasure of his had in mind. What he wanted most wasn't to obtain this divine grimoire. He didn't want to become the master of this place. The divine grimoire couldn't possibly acknowledge an ordinary heaven ranker. He still had this bit of self-awareness. After so many things, the Lord of the Still Wind Kingdom looked down on the struggle for hegemony. What was there to fight for? In front of a powerhouse like the Sun King, even if he worked hard for a lifetime, he would still be an ant. He couldn't even beat the 8 generals under the Sun King, let alone the 4 kings. If he gave up on the struggle for hegemony and changed to traveling with his beauty, wouldn't it be the same as owning the entire world with his beloved woman by his side? The pearl-glowing beauty smiled at him. Even though she was still weak, her smiling face was a little pale. But that peerless beauty made his heart tremble. This beauty that he wanted to hold his arms in love for the rest of his life. Why couldn't the heavens let him have her earlier? I want to go closer to the Golden Palace to take a look. I won't go in, I just want to take a look from the outside. Okay? The pearl-glowing beauty acted coquettishly towards the Lord of the Still Wind Kingdom. The intoxicated Lord of the Still Wind Kingdom kept nodding his head. Not to mention that he wasn't sure if the Sun King was inside. Even if he was standing in front of him, he would still bring her along for his beloved woman. Ever since he knew her, she rarely took the initiative to ask for anything. Could it be that as a man, he couldn't even satisfy her wish of going closer to take a look at the Golden Palace? Let's go. The Lord of the Still Wind Kingdom decided to bring her closer to take a look at the majestic golden palace that pierced through the clouds. We'll go too. The Lord of the Luo Kingdom also decided to go together. We don't need to think about whether we can enter the golden palace or not. It's fine as long as we can take a look. Haha, to be able to go closer to take a look is enough. The Lord of the Green Wolf Kingdom laughed crazily. His laughter affected his injuries, and he even coughed out a mouthful of dirty blood. The strange thing was that as soon as this mouthful of dirty blood was spat out, it didn't splatter on the spotless ground, but instantly turned into nothingness. The flowers that had been splattered with the dirty blood trembled slightly, as if an invisible hand was gently wiping it with gauze. The dirty blood quickly dried up and disappeared without a single stain. At this moment, the Lord of the Still Wind Kingdom and the others finally understood why the flowers and plants here and the ground were spotless. It turned out that there was a kind of nomological power that was constantly protecting them. The pearl-glowing beauty stretched out her hand, wanting to pluck a flower. The Lord of the Still Wind Kingdom knew that such an action might cause some kind of danger, but he couldn't bear to stop it. The Lord of the Green Wolf Kingdom and the others also pretended not to see it. Anyway, it wasn't the nomological power that would punish them later, so who cared about her? Very few heaven-rank powerhouses were a little dissatisfied with the Lord of the Still Wind Kingdom. Your woman wants to pluck flowers. If there's danger, won't everyone die? It's fine if you don't stop it, but why encourage it? Don't move. An unfamiliar voice rang in everyone's ears. The Lord of the Still Wind Kingdom heard it very clearly. He was startled because he realized that this wasn't Ming Riwu's voice, nor was it Titan Yu's voice. It was even more impossible for it to be the Queen of Freedom's voice, because this was a male voice. Other than Ming Riwu and Titan Yu, the outsiders that entered the Divine Grimoire were most likely enemies. It was almost impossible for them to be friends. Who exactly was this person? Everyone was startled and turned around to look. Behind them, there was no one. The Azure Wolf Monarch reacted the quickest. He raised his head and discovered that there was a tall and skinny man wearing a ceremonial hat and strange clothes of many colors hovering in the air several dozen meters above him. He was floating in the air and slowly descending. He had a silver mask on his face, and he was half crying and half smiling. It made people feel very strange. In his left hand, this silver-masked man was twirling a shiny and glossy stick. As for his right hand, he was continuously tossing the tricolor ball. This person didn't seem like a martial artist, but more like a clown that was in charge of performing funny acts to amuse people at a banquet. Seeing this person, the Lord of the Green Wolf Kingdom's expression changed slightly. He blurted out, "Clown? You are the head of the 8 generals under the Sun King, the clown." The clown twirled his magic wand with his other hand. He was tossing the tricolor ball. He turned his half-crying and half-smiling face towards the Lord of the Green Wolf Kingdom. Smart. Unfortunately, smart people usually don't live long. Before I send you on your way, I am very curious. I would like to ask, you know that His Majesty the Sun King has entered the Divine Grimoire space. Why do you still dare to barge in and die? Are you tired of living? Are you tired of living? The Lord of the Green Wolf Kingdom sensed his surroundings. He realized that other than the clown, there was no one else. Actually, the 8 generals were not here, and the 4 kings were also not here. He reckoned that they were fighting with Titan Yu outside. His confidence returned. With just you? Clown, it is true that you are the head of the 8 generals under the Sun King, but that is because you are smart, not because of your strength. With just your peak heaven-ranked level 4 strength, you dare challenge us? Before the Sun King arrives, I only need 10 minutes to capture you. Don't think that just because you are a general of the Sun God Palace, you can provoke me. I, Green Wolf, have died and come back to life. I am already unafraid of death. Sometimes, it is not impossible to do 1 or 2 acts of courage. If you are a young Titan Yu, I can still accept what you said. The clown laughed weirdly. Green Wolf, use your brain and think. You are just a king. How dare you speak such arrogant words? You can be brainless, but you can't be brainless to this extent. I'm a heaven-ranked level 4. That's right, I am very weak. Quickly come and kill me. You. The Lord of the Green Wolf Kingdom was furious. He had already died a few times. What was there to be afraid of? Wait, he seems to have come prepared. The Lord of the Luo Kingdom hurriedly stopped him and advised the Lord of the Green Wolf Kingdom not to be rash. Of course I came prepared. To be more accurate, I am fearless. The magic wand in the clown's hand suddenly stopped and casually pointed to the surroundings. Everyone, as long as you're not blind, I believe you have all seen it. This divine grimoire space is full of vitality, fragrant flowers, and green grass. Is there something missing? What is missing? Could it be? After the Lord of the Still Wind Kingdom heard this, his mind shook and he cried out involuntarily, "It's birds and beasts. There are no animals here." He hurriedly summoned his grimoire, but it surprisingly failed. In an instant, everyone understood one thing. This divine grimoire space had a unique power of law that forbade summoning of grimoires. Not being able to summon grimoires here was equivalent to not being able to summon war beasts. The worst thing was that they could not use their inherent abilities. Without war beasts and inherent abilities, whether it was the Lord of the Still Wind Kingdom or the Lord of the Green Wolf Kingdom, their strength would be greatly reduced. Now, the Lord of the Still Wind Kingdom and the Lord of the Green Wolf Kingdom were all injured. Under such conditions, it would be a bit difficult to defeat the uninjured clown who was at the peak of heaven-ranked level 4. The clown sneered, "For today, I have planned for a long time. I am not afraid to tell you. Not to mention that you do not have reinforcements. Even if Titan you personally came to rescue you, you will definitely die." Chapter 981. Divine Grimoire Space. Ji Feng, Qing Lang, and Lu Luo, as well as the Heaven Rankers, all fell to the ground. Their overall strength was far stronger than the Heaven Rank Level 4 clown. Originally, any one of the Heaven Rankers could have easily beaten the clown to a pulp. However, with just one shockwave from the clown, everyone fell to the ground. It was like a small forest being blown over by a hurricane. The Heaven Rankers instead fell to the ground like soft-footed crabs, completely losing their ability to fight. Even Ji Feng, Qing Lang, and Lu Luo, the three strongest Heaven Rankers, did not have the slightest chance to struggle. As for the other Heaven Rankers, they did not even have the strength to move a finger. If there was a word to describe their current situation, it would be waiting for death. Why is it like this? The Green Wolf King could not understand. Impossible. The Lu Luo King was also in disbelief. Before the Lord of Still Wind Kingdom fell, he used the last of his strength to protect the pearl-glowing beauty in his arms, unwilling to let her fall in pain. The reason is simple. All of you are cursed. The clown raised his slender index finger and chuckled sinisterly. Actually, I was the one who planned the entire plan, including the ambush at the banquet, the self-detonation curse of the Death Warriors, and the activation of the Sea of Storms. It was all part of my plan. We were injured at the Storm Sea because we used our blood to activate the curse. The Still Wind King suddenly understood why the double-faced king and his 8 generals did not kill everyone. Previously, he thought it was luck. He never thought that it was just the clown's plan. Not only did the clown predict the curse, he also predicted that the survivors would take the risk to enter the divine grimoire out of curiosity. That's right. The clown did not deny it. He shrugged his shoulders and laughed weirdly. If I had killed all of you earlier with my strength, I would not have been able to open the shield outside the golden divine grimoire. In order to maximize the success of the plan, I decided to let all of you in. When all of you arrived here, I would kill all of you and use your blood to open the temporary opening of the shield and enter the golden divine grimoire. Why us? We have no enmity with you. The Green Wolf King did not understand. It was one thing to plot against Ji Feng, but why him? Do you still remember the massacre in Ginkgo Valley? The clown's voice suddenly became 1,000,000 times more venomous. He tried his best to suppress his anger and sneered in a sharp voice. 1,500 people in the valley, including the old, the weak, the women, and the children, were all killed. This is what you Lu Luo and Wan Jiao have done. You're the kid with the broken leg? The Azure Wolf Emperor looked at Xiao Cho as if he had seen a ghost. That child clearly didn't have legs back then. You really are the last survivor. The king of Lu Luo Kingdom's facial expression changed drastically. He was clearly burned to death. Another heaven ranker exclaimed. Impossible. Almost everyone present had participated in the Ginkgo Valley massacre. When they heard about revenge, their faces turned deathly pale. Yes, I'm a leftover that you guys couldn't burn to death, even after burning for half a day. The clown's voice was colder than ice, and his tone was gloomier than the breath of a ghost. Do you think that I said I would take revenge for nothing? All these years, I've been plotting for this day at all times. Do you think that accepting the King of Still Wind's invitation to the banquet was an accident? That was all arranged by me. I predicted your greed. Even without Titan Yu's appearance, without God's blood as bait, you guys would have fallen for it. So, it's Ginkgo Valley's retribution. The Azure Wolf Emperor's eyes flashed with a trace of regret. That is indeed the only crazy action that I feel guilty about. Back then, my good friend had just been killed, and my mind had already been stimulated by blood to the point of losing control. I regret the madness of Ginkgo Valley. Regret? What did I hear? You, who participated in the rape and murder of Ginkgo Queen, can actually say the word regret. The clown laughed wildly. Everything that Madam has done to her makes me feel guilty. The Azure Wolf Emperor laughed bitterly. Although she said that she had already forgiven me, I can't forgive myself. Since you're taking revenge for her, then I'll compensate you with my life. The Azure Wolf Emperor's trembling hands turned into wolf claws. He gritted his teeth and fiercely clawed out his heart. It was dripping with blood. He handed it to the clown. The clown spat in disdain. Without even looking, he stomped down with his long legs. With one stomp, he crushed the heart that was still beating slightly. Fresh blood splattered all over the ground. Not only did he mercilessly crush the Azure Wolf Emperor's heart, he also used a magic wand in his hand to draw out all of the Azure Wolf Emperor's blood before his death. He condensed it into a ball and floated it in front of him, preparing to use it as a blood sacrifice later. The Azure Wolf Emperor's blood was almost completely drawn out. His face was deathly pale. His lips trembled. I'm sorry. Although you've forgiven me, I, in the end, did not become a good person. I can't forget your smile. I can't forget your tears. And I can't forget your forgiveness. But I'm too weak. In the Tianhua region, in this place where evil people are everywhere, I can't bravely stand up and be a good person. I can only use viciousness to cover up my cowardice. After so many years, madam, actually, I've never forgotten. I'm sorry. His pupils were constantly dilating. Before he died, a drop of bitter tear fell from the corner of his eye and dripped onto the fresh blood on the ground. When the Lu Luo Emperor saw the Azure Wolf Emperor commit suicide to atone for his sins, he was scared out of his wits. He used all of his strength to jump into the air and escape in a panic. The clown chased after the king of Lu Luo like a feather. With lightning speed, the clown's claw pierced through the king of Lu Luo's back. The clown's slender fingers tightly gripped an object. It was a heart that was covered in blood. As he retracted his arm, the clown mercilessly crushed the Lu Luo Emperor's heart. The Lu Luo Emperor escaped 1,000 meters away. Countless drops of blood splattered in the air, forming a long blood rainbow. The clown hurriedly used the magic wand to condense that long blood rainbow into a second ball of blood. As for the Lu Luo Emperor's corpse that had lost all of his blood, it fell to the ground like a kite with a broken string. Compared to the Azure Wolf Emperor who died in repentance, the power of the laws within the divine grimoire was cleansed and turned into powder. It continuously disappeared into nothingness. On the contrary, the Azure Wolf Emperor who died to atone for his sins still had a small portion of his will left. The corpse did not disappear immediately. It only gradually melted. The clown snorted. He stepped on the Azure Wolf Emperor's corpse with force and crushed the skull of the Azure Wolf Emperor's corpse. The corpse quickly turned into powder and disappeared. However, under the clown's feet, surprisingly, there was still a magic crystal-like crystal. It was condensed with a large amount of the Azure Wolf Emperor's repentance when he was alive. It could be said that this was an unknown heart of repentance. The clown quickly killed all the heaven rankers other than the Still Wind Kingdom Emperor and the Pearl Glowing Beauty. He then absorbed their blood and made it into dozens of blood balls of different sizes. The Still Wind Kingdom Emperor knew that he would not be able to escape. Although he did not participate in the Ginkgo Valley massacre with the clown's character, he would definitely not let him go. He looked longingly at the Pearl Glowing Beauty in his arms. He bent down and kissed the forehead of his beloved woman affectionately. He used his hand to signal her not to speak and let her leave everything to him. "Clown, I understand what you mean." The clown smiled eerily. "Then tell me, what do I mean?" The Still Wind Kingdom Emperor sighed. "You didn't kill me first because you want to keep me alive to torture me slowly and force me to hand over the astral stone fragment." The clown laughed heartily and gave him a thumbs up. "Smart people are indeed different. All right, if you don't want to watch me rape and kill your beloved woman in front of you, then hand over the astral stone fragment. Without it, I can't enter the Golden Palace. If I can't enter the Golden Palace, I will be in a bad mood. When I'm in a bad mood, I will inevitably find a woman to vent. You love your woman so deeply, you definitely don't want her to be offended, right? If you swear in the name of the Ginkgo Queen that you will not violate the Pearl Glowing Beauty, I will give you the astral stone fragment if you let her go immediately after I give you the astral stone fragment. Otherwise, I will commit suicide like the Azure Wolf Emperor. Once I die, the astral stone fragment will disappear forever." The Still Wind Kingdom Emperor had already thought about it. In the clown's plan, he still had a glimmer of hope. However, even if there was only a glimmer of hope, the Still Wind Kingdom Emperor didn't leave it for himself. Instead, he exchanged it all for the life of his beloved woman. The clown swore without hesitation. He promised not to harm a single hair on the Pearl Glowing Beauty. As long as he got the astral stone fragment, he would let her go immediately. The Still Wind Kingdom Emperor looked deeply at the Pearl Glowing Beauty in his arms. At the last moment, he couldn't bear to look at her for even a second. The Pearl Glowing Beauty burst into tears. The Still Wind Kingdom Emperor gently wiped away the tears on her face and comforted her with a smile. "Darling, you will have to walk alone in the future. With your intelligence, as long as you are careful, I think it won't be hard. Don't cry, don't cry. Live on bravely. Remember, you must be happy in the future. You must be happier than anyone else. I love you, darling." He gently held the Pearl Glowing Beauty's head and kissed her deeply on her smooth forehead. He was so affectionate when he kissed her with his eyes closed. The clown looked at them coldly from the side with a playful gaze. "You must abide by the oath you made just now." The Still Wind Kingdom Emperor let go of his hand and wiped away the Pearl Glowing Beauty's tears. He suddenly stared at the clown with an abnormally serious expression. "Otherwise, Queen Ginkgo will definitely curse you. Don't worry." The clown pretended to be serious. "I won't let anything taint Queen Ginkgo's oath. The oath I made just now is absolutely valid. That's for the best." The Still Wind Kingdom Emperor took out a sparkling crystal. This crystal was far more sparkling and translucent than the similar crystals on the surface of the astral stone. It shone even more brilliantly. Its energy was also hundreds or even thousands of times more than those similar crystals. The astral stone fragments outside were indeed fragments, but the astral stone fragment in front of them was more like a core and not an equivalent existence. The Still Wind Kingdom Emperor handed it to the clown. The clown was a little cautious. He first scanned the surroundings, worried that someone would attack him. Only after confirming that there was no one around did he quickly snatch the astral stone core and put it into his storage ring. As he retracted his hand, he kicked out heavily, completely shattering the Still Wind Kingdom Emperor's heart from the outside to the inside. The Still Wind Kingdom Emperor seemed to have expected this. He laughed bitterly. "You even know my most hidden weakness. It's not an injustice that I lost." He hurriedly turned his head and forced a smile. "Baby, let's go. I I can't protect you anymore." The clown laughed loudly. He laughed so hard that tears flew out. "Maybe it's a little cruel, but I still have to tell you the truth. Otherwise, you'll die contentedly. That kind of man protecting his beloved woman is full of superiority. Actually, Still Wind, you're the #1 fool in the world. What kind of woman is Pearl Light? Don't make me laugh to death. Who told me about your weakness? It's her. Who do you think this entire plan was made for? It was for her. Who do you think entered this golden palace for? It's for her. You think you're so great, but you're just a fool that we can play around with in our palms. You're not even qualified to call you a fool. You're simply a big idiot. The #1 idiot in the world." The Still Wind Kingdom Emperor's body fell heavily to the ground. His eyes were fixed on the Pearl Light beauty, who had already wiped away her tears and stood up from the ground. "Your Majesty, I'm very grateful for your love for me. After you finish the last part of your journey, I'll always stay by your side to accompany you." The Pearl Light beauty's voice was gentle and beautiful like the sounds of nature. But seeing her stand up, the clown could not help but avoid her as much as possible, as if he had seen a snake or scorpion. The Still Wind Kingdom Emperor was so heartbroken that he could not speak. He closed his eyes, unable to bear to look at the woman who had betrayed him. "Your Majesty, Pearl Light still has a little doubt. I hope your Majesty can clear it up." The Pearl Light beauty bent her beautiful body, her face as close as possible to the Still Wind Kingdom Emperor. She asked in a voice as gentle as the wind, "Although your Majesty has only known Titan Yu for a short period of time, but Titan Yu is a discerning person. He definitely appreciates your Majesty. Furthermore, your Majesty is a person who values friendship and righteousness. Experts like Sky Execution would be happy to make friends with you. With Titan Yu's intelligence and ability, there's no reason for him to watch your Majesty die. Your Majesty, in this last bit of time, Pearl Light hopes that your Majesty can be as honest as before. Is Titan Yu hiding behind us? Is he waiting for us to open the Golden Palace? I beg you, your Majesty, if you don't want everything that Pearl Light has done to benefit others, then tell us the truth." "I don't know." The Still Wind Kingdom Emperor sighed. Large amounts of blood flowed from his mouth. He used the last of his strength to struggle. "Although you betrayed me, but I still love you. Beauty, if I see Titan Yu, I'll definitely ask him to let you go." "Thank you." The Pearl Light beauty seemed very moved. She wiped her tears and said with a sob, "Your Majesty, you can die now." Chapter 982. The clown and the pearl-glowing beauty went far away. Only Still Wind was left, quietly waiting for his death to come. The pearl-glowing beauty did not kill the Lord of Still Wind, and the clown did not want to. Now, even a blind person could see that Still Wind could not be saved. Even if a deity descended, he would not be able to save his life. Instead of giving Still Wind a quick death, it was better to let him suffer a little more before he died. Although he did not know what the pearl-glowing beauty was thinking, the clown was definitely thinking that way. Before leaving, the pearl-glowing beauty shed a tear. Everything that the Lord of Still Wind had done for her, in the end, was only exchanged for this tear, and no one knew if it was real or fake. "Ah, what an idiot." The clown laughed mockingly. He didn't stop laughing. Amidst his laughter, his shadow was like a bat, drifting away like a ghost. The pearl-glowing beauty did not look back. She left the Lord of Still Wind behind without looking back, as if she did not know the person on the ground. However, the Lord of Still Wind stared hard at her back, as if he was looking at his most beloved treasure. Even before he died, he could not bear to miss a glance. It was not until she and the clown disappeared without a trace that he withdrew his gaze and sighed slightly. Then, he slowly closed his eyes and quietly waited for death. Yu Yang appeared out of nowhere, descending like a light smoke. Following behind him were Man, Red, Ik, Duo, Hornless Dragon Jiang, and even the Dragon Sisters Yao and Yu. In order to fight against the Sun King, Yu Yang had used almost all of his strength. Man and the others seeing that Yu Yang had stopped in his tracks because of the Lord of Still Wind, consciously and naturally lined up behind him. Only little Wen Li, who had seen the Lord of Still Wind before, accompanied Yu Yang and glanced curiously at the passionate king who was on the verge of death. Yu Yang bent down, looked into the eyes of the Lord of Still Wind, and said sincerely, "I do not understand why you are doing this, but I respect your choice. If you have any last wishes that I can fulfill, I don't mind doing you a small favor." "Thank you, young Master Titan. You're a true friend." The Lord of the Still Wind Kingdom shook his head strenuously, a faint smile on his face. "I don't have any regrets in my heart. I'm already very satisfied to die like this." "Do you feel satisfied when she treats you like that?" Yu Yang asked curiously. "She betrayed me, but I don't blame her." The King of the Still Wind Kingdom sighed. "No matter what she does, my heart loves her the same." "You really are a fool." Princess Sisai, who was descending from afar, snorted in annoyance. "That kind of bitch should be beaten with a whip. The better you treat her, the more wrong you are." "In your eyes, it is indeed so, but only I myself know that when I love someone, I don't care about the gains and losses. When I love someone, I don't ask for anything in return. Even if she betrayed me and did many things that outsiders find unbearable, my heart still loves her." The Lord of the Still Wind Kingdom's words almost made Yu Yang fall to the ground. "Big brother, are you acting like Aunt Xiaoyao? You are a lord of the Tianhua domain. You should be cruel and merciless, killing people like flies and treating women like playthings. How did you end up like this? Your love is completely without reason and worthless." Princess Sisai felt that the Lord of the Still Wind Kingdom was a fool. Yes, I admit, but love is like this. There is no reason for love, and love is blind." The Lord of the Still Wind Kingdom smiled. His face flashed with the radiance of the setting sun, and his voice became clear and powerful. "I used to play with women every day. No matter how beautiful a woman is, in my heart, she is just a plaything. No matter how beautiful a woman is, to me, if I can't use her to my fullest potential, she is worthless. She is even less than cattle and sheep for meat." Until one day, when I met the Pearlite, I suddenly felt my heart being struck by love. I was completely captured, and there was no possibility of struggling. At first, I didn't dare to admit that it was love. I didn't dare to face the throbbing of my heart. I explained to myself that it was the influence of the quasi-divine weapon prayer bead on her forehead. I even wanted to kill her so that I could return to being the cruel and merciless Still Wind who treated women like cattle and sheep. But in the end, I couldn't win against my heart. When I saw her face, when I saw her bright eyes, I completely surrendered. I also knew that a beautiful woman like her could not have no past. Someone as powerful as me might not necessarily have a future like her. But what does that matter? I swear, even if I only have her for a day, or even for a second, I will fight for it. No matter who she is, no matter where she comes from, as long as she is willing, I will think of ways to make her laugh every day, think of ways to make her happy. I have long known that this day would come, and I also know my ending. I don't regret it, I really don't. If I had to choose again, I would still choose true love. I know that I can't keep her for a lifetime, but I am satisfied to have her once. In the past, that cruel and merciless Still Wind who treated women like playthings looked majestic and happy on the surface, but his heart was empty. Now, this fool who was betrayed by a woman and lies on the ground waiting for death and doesn't feel regret or even satisfaction, his heart is full. Hearing the Lord of Still Wind's words, Yu Yang and Princess Sisai were abnormally shocked. They really didn't expect that this idiotic Lord of Still Wind Kingdom. He actually knew true love. For the true love in his heart, he was willing to give up everything, including his own life. In the eyes of many, this was an idiotic and laughable act. But from the perspective of love, this fellow was undoubtedly a good husband. In fact, Yu Yang quite admired this Lord of Still Wind Kingdom. But he was still a little unconvinced and tried to argue against this fellow who was about to die. Sacrificing for love, this, if it was mutual, It would be better, but what about her? She didn't do anything. Isn't this your wishful thinking? In my opinion, Pearl Light doesn't love you at all. Yu Yang's words were a little hurtful. The kind-hearted Yu Yu was afraid that the Lord of Still Wind Kingdom would die with everlasting regret. She hurried forward and gently tugged at her brother's sleeve, indicating that he shouldn't rub salt into the other's wound. But the Lord of Still Wind Kingdom revealed a smile. I know, Pearl Light, she doesn't love me. I'm not really stupid. Of course I can feel what her heart is like. But, young Master Titan, who said that love must be mutual. It would be best if it could be mutual, but even if she doesn't love me, I can still love her, right? I love her, regardless of whether she loves me or not. I don't know why either. Perhaps this is what you people in Tong Tian Tower call fate. Perhaps I owe her something in my previous life. No matter what, I am very clear that my heart has always been deeply in love with her, regardless of what she has done in the past, and regardless of what she has done now. She has never said that she loves me, so it can't be considered as her lying to me. I can only say that it was my own wishful thinking. Before she left, she shed a tear, and I know that it was true. She doesn't love me. I'm not her choice, not her final goal, but she didn't ignore my sincerity. She just didn't give the mutual love that you speak of. You idiot, a tear in exchange for your life. Yu Yang scolded exasperatedly. What you said makes sense, but I feel love shouldn't be like what you said. Princess Sisai still had her own opinion. That's because you and young Master Titan love each other deeply. In this world, not everyone can be like you, and there are also people like me who love each other silently, but the other's heart belongs to another person. Perfect love is love. Imperfect love is also love. I envy you, but I can't ask Pearl Light to respond like how you love young Master Titan. Actually, you should tell her your feelings. Tell her that you love her so deeply. You felt a little pity for the Lord of Still Wind Kingdom. He loved Pearl Light so deeply. Why didn't he say it directly? If she wants to know, she will know. The Lord of Still Wind Kingdom coughed. His time in this world was coming to an end. Is that so? Yi was secretly shocked. Wasn't she also suppressing her true feelings? If others knew about it, it would be terrible. In an instant, her heart was beating like a deer, speeding up. Her face was overflowing with warmth, and her cheeks were red. She hurriedly retreated behind Princess Sisai, afraid that others would see her heart. You really don't need me to do anything? Yang asked for the last time. No need. I'm already very happy to have a friend like you send me off. If there's anything I regret, it's that I'm not outstanding enough, not strong enough. I can't meet the requirements in Pearl Light's heart. If I could be half as outstanding as you, perhaps she will fall in love with me, and not someone else. The Still Wind Monarch's voice gradually weakened. Although she appears to be restraining herself on the surface, I can tell that she would often sneak a peek at Ming Rihao by your side. Perhaps the ones who are truly a couple are her and him. Young Master Titan, if you really want to do something for me, then I want to say, please spare her life. Let her live well the happiness that I don't have. Let her. The Lord of Still Wind Kingdom didn't finish his words. He had already breathed his last. However, Yu Yang already understood what he wanted to say at the end. Even though he knew that his lover didn't love him, this idiotic Lord of Still Wind Kingdom still didn't feel jealous. Instead, he gave his blessings, hoping that the lover in his heart would be able to live happily. Yu Yang didn't speak for a long time. His heart was touched by the Lord of Still Wind Kingdom's words. Was true love. The idiotic Lord of Still Wind in front of him said it. True love is priceless. True love doesn't talk about conditions. True love has no reason. True love is to sacrifice for one's lover and still give blessings for them. Princess Sisai walked forward and used her slender hand to gently hold Yu Yang's big hand. Usually, she very rarely expressed her feelings in front of others. However, at this moment, she wanted to tell him that he also had such a precious true love, and it was even more perfect, because she and he loved each other. The Lord of Still Wind Kingdom's corpse gradually melted under the power of the laws. He was the same as the Green Wolf Kingdom. Because of the obsession of his will when he was alive, His energy had condensed into crystals, forming a rare heart of true love. Yu Yang picked up this heart of true love and took the heart of repentance left behind by the Lord of the Green Wolf Kingdom from Aman. He sighed slightly. Why did you choose to leave when you clearly could have lived on? Although death is a kind of release, it's also a very irresponsible act. You all died, and died very naturally, but instead caused trouble for this young master. I really didn't know how to make friends. His words gave you a fright, afraid that her brother's heart would be touched, and he wouldn't be able to extricate himself. She hurriedly rushed forward and hugged him tightly, pressing her face against his back. She hurriedly advised, "Little San, don't let your thoughts run wild. We will always be with you. Don't have any thoughts of committing suicide at any time." Yu Yang didn't expect Yu to be so nervous and originally wanted to make a joke. When he looked back, he saw that her eyes were red. He felt very apologetic in his heart and used his arms to hug her and Princess Sisai. Although he didn't speak, he responded with a hug. In an instant, Red, Aman, Duo, and the hornless dragon, Jiang Ing, all rushed over and tightly hugged him with open arms. Chapter 983. Sun King. He stood quietly in front of the Golden Palace, like a gentleman who kept his promise to his friend. Even if his friend didn't come, he insisted on waiting. Ming Rihao sat on the steps of the Golden Palace with his hands on his knees and his head lowered. And Sun King. There was only a layer of golden barrier between them. The light on his body was dim, as if he was at the end of his rope. Surprisingly, Ming Rihao's body didn't have any injuries. On the steps not far from him, there was another person lying quietly, as serene as a sleeping beauty. It was the Freedom Queen who came in earlier. Other than a bloody red finger mark on her forehead, there was no other abnormality. However, her body was slowly dissipating. It seemed that other than the cleansing power of the divine grimoire, there was another kind of energy that was silently devouring her body. Yu Yang floated over from the divine grimoire space. Although he saw Ming Rihao and the Freedom Queen's abnormality, he didn't retreat. Instead, he increased his speed and flew to Sun King's side. "You're here." Sun King's tone was as if he saw an old friend he hadn't seen for many years, and not an enemy. "I'm sorry, there was a traffic jam on the way, so I'm a bit late." Yu Yang apologized sincerely. "It's all right. It's good enough that you can come. If I were you, I might not have the courage to come back." Sun King looked at Yu Yang with admiration and sighed. "If you weren't so outstanding, if you didn't have such courage, if you weren't the new prison emperor of Tongtian Tower, I would really want to be friends with you. In the Heaven Realm, there are many enemies but few friends. It's rare to meet a young man who is worth befriending, but I have to destroy him with my own hands. Although I'm not a sentimental girl, I still feel a little regretful. Maybe this is fate. No one knows what fate is like before the truth is revealed." Yu Yang laughed and shook his head. "We have a saying, fate is unpredictable. Those who flourish will fall. Some people look like the sun in the sky, unstoppable and awe-inspiring, but they might be the product of fate's ruthless elimination. Until the end, who knows? That person has power close to that of God. What do you think will happen to him in the end? Elimination or victory?" The Sun King also laughed. "Even gods will fall one day, not to mention near gods." Yu Yang retorted bluntly. "Get a try then." The Sun King's smile grew wider and wider, just like his killing intent. "Old Hao, you're not dead yet, right?" Yu Yang suddenly shouted towards Ming Rihao. "Almost there." As Ming Riwu spoke, he coughed nonstop. Fresh blood spurted out from his mouth and nose, staining the white jade steps in front of him. However, in the blink of an eye, the nomological power within the divine grimoire was eliminated and disappeared without a trace. "At first, I only thought that your ability was lacking. I didn't expect that your brain wasn't that good either." Yu Yang shook his head and said, "I told you to lead the Sun King here and run as fast as you could. I didn't expect that not only did you not listen to my advice, but you even attacked the Sun King. Old Hao, this is not the way to show off, okay? If you could defeat the Sun King, why should I run? I might as well stay and watch your performance. F***CK. There's a reason why I did that. Ming Rihao was furious. However, he couldn't straighten his back anymore. Although he didn't look injured on the surface, his body seemed to have suffered a huge internal injury. Sun King, aren't you being a little mean? Yu Yang turned to look at the Sun King and criticized him. Tell me, how am I being mean? The Sun King pretended to be confused and asked, with your status as the master of the Solar Divine Palace, it's already degrading to challenge a nobody like Ming Rihao alone. Yet, you ganged up on him. You might as well be called a street thug. Why are you still calling yourself the Sun King? Yu Yang sneered and mocked. Actually, it's a little exaggerated to call it ganging up on him. We were only fighting 2 against 2. The Sun King calmly explained. Ming Rihao and the Freedom Queen teamed up to fight me and the Palace Master of the Water Divine Palace. We had the same number of people and the same conditions. I even let her have the first move out of respect for a lady. On the battlefield, how many martial artists in the world can still maintain their poise like me? I think even young Master Titan might not be able to do it, right? Of course, young Master Titan can't be like the Sun King. An old man's voice slowly sounded behind Yu Yang. That voice was like a rusty steel gear that was turning with time. It gave off an indescribable feeling. According to the information this palace master has obtained, no matter if it's in Tong Tian Tower or Heaven Realm, young Master Titan's actions can only be described with one sentence. Despicable is only young Master Titan's nickname. Shameless is young Master Titan's real name. If we were to compare methods, this palace master is simply a good and kind person compared to young Master Titan. There was an old man with a round head and a snow-white beard that reached his chest. He appeared behind Yu Yang. He was holding a dragon head walking stick that was carved out of purple gold sandalwood. He was wearing a wide-sleeved robe with a gold collar. The color of the robe was dark purple. There were a few silver cloud patterns on the sleeves and the bottom of the robe. Other than the bald head and the beard that reached his ears, the biggest characteristic of this old man was that he had a pair of eyes that were filled with wisdom. That pair of eyes were blue and as deep as the sea. Even if it was Yu Yang, when he saw this pair of eyes, he couldn't help but admire them from the bottom of his heart. Definitely, only after countless years of accumulation, after thousands of years of precipitation, could one possess such a pair of eyes of wisdom. Yu Yang knew so many powerful people from Tong Tian Tower, Southern Heaven Realm, Western Heaven Realm. There were countless of them. However, there was only one person who could be mentioned in the same breath as this old man. That person was Old Man Nangong. Other than Old Man Nangong, who didn't forget to read a book before going to bed, there was no one in the world who could match this old man's wisdom. That kind of great wisdom, not to mention Yu Yang, even an ordinary person could see it with a glance. As long as one looked into this old man's eyes, no one would doubt the knowledge in his mind. Although Grandma Wu Tung, the old fox, and Yu Yu's mentor, Elder Jing Hu, and other seniors were also sages with vast knowledge, they were still inferior to this old man. New Water Temple Master? Yu Yang frowned. He never thought that the new Water Temple Master would look like this, nor did he think that he would appear here. Not the new Water Temple Master, but the Water Temple Master. The old man with a pair of wise eyes smiled kindly like a kind and understanding elder. I have been serving as the Temple Master of the Water Temple for thousands of years. During my tenure, I have made modest contributions to the region and the temple. If I were to say that I am the new Temple Master of the Water Temple, wouldn't that be irresponsible of me? Young Master Titan, perhaps you have just heard about this Temple Master not long ago, but this Temple Master has long heard about you and has always been interested in you. Before today, I always wondered what kind of young man could kill the 9 Light Clan's Heavenly Empress. You should know that the 9 Light Clan's Heavenly Empress is the most qualified candidate to challenge the Western Heaven Realm's great leaders. If it was the Sun King, he wouldn't dare to say that he could easily take her down. But what about you, young Master Titan? Not only did you kill the 9 Light Clan's Heavenly Empress, you even annihilated her entire clan. This Temple Master sincerely admires you. The younger generation will surpass the older in time. This saying is absolutely true. If I'm so fearsome, then why did you come here to compete with me? Yu Yang smiled. Ingluo, the Queen of Freedom that you know is actually my granddaughter's granddaughter. My family is unfortunate. In order to restore the family's prestige, this temple master had no choice but to straighten my old bones and make a trip here. Although this temple master and the Sun King are on the same path, our goals are different. The Sun King pursues the divine codex. His ambition is lofty, and he is in existence like the future pillar of the deity's Templar. As for this temple master, I don't have much time left. I'm old and weak, and I'm satisfied to be able to guard this small manor in the Tianhua region. If this temple master has a little selfishness, it would be to completely eradicate your Tong Tian Tower and the Ming clan. After all, you young people grow too fast, squeezing us old fellows until we have no place to stand. The benevolent-looking old man stroked his beard as he spoke slowly and calmly. I've seen many annoying old men, but I've never seen anyone as annoying as you. Yu Yang couldn't stand this kind of person. He had talent, but no virtue. This was the kind of person the new Water Temple Master was. If this old fellow didn't have any ability, then it wouldn't matter. If he didn't have any ability, no matter how bad his heart was, he wouldn't be a disaster. However, this old fellow had talent and ability, but his heart was evil. He was simply a nightmare. Towards this kind of person, Yu Yang felt that it was useless to say anything. The best way was to beat him up. Beat him until he cried for his parents, then beat him until he looked for his teeth all over the floor. That was the right thing to do. Yu Yang rolled up his sleeves angrily. Don't think that just because you're an old man, I don't dare to beat you up. Lowly people are asking for a beating. What's the point of beating a lowly person's skin and flesh? Young Master Titan, looks like you're prepared to fight the two of us alone. The old man glanced at Ming Ri Hao, who was within the golden barrier, and smiled with great confidence. I don't deny that you have an extremely powerful strength. You, who can kill the Nine Lights Empress, are an existence that no one can ignore. However, I've collected all the information in the Tianhua region and researched for thousands of years just for this day. Here, in this divine grimoire space, you might be able to defeat the Nine Light Clan's Empress or even a Heaven Realm great leader. But you definitely can't defeat me. Is that so? Yu Yang snorted coldly. He didn't believe in superstitions. If the old man wanted to play tricks on him, then come. The current Ming Ri Wu will be the next you. The new Water Temple Master slammed his dragon-headed walking stick on the ground, his words filled with confidence. With Elder Song taking action, I'll just be in charge of holding the fort like before. The Sun King seemed to have a lot of confidence in the new Water Temple Master. Although he'd been carefully plotting against Yu Yang and had been staring at Yu Yang all the time, he was deeply afraid that he would relax for even a second. However, at this moment, he was even willing to let the new Water Temple Master be the main attacker. When Yu Yang heard this, his eyes turned cold. In an instant, he disappeared. When he reappeared, he was already on top of the new Water Temple Master's head. It was a huge saber that he had obtained from the Nine Light Clan's strongest warrior, Li Pan. It was a platinum-ranked heavy weapon. With its weight combined with Yu Yang's earth-splitting slash, its power was unimaginably terrifying. It truly had the power to destroy heaven and earth. The saber and sword chi exploded in the air like a heavenly dragon swallowing the sun. Even though this was the divine melody space protected by the power of the laws, it was still shocked by Yu Yang's destructive attack. The golden barrier trembled violently, and the ground here, which was harder than diamond, had already been cut deeply by the saber and sword chi. Not to mention a person, even if it was a mountain, the current Yu Yang could still cut it in half. An unstoppable and invincible slash. It came down from above. The new Water Temple Master, on the other hand, turned a blind eye to it and waited quietly. Only when the Zamadeo, which carried the power of thunder and lightning, was 1 centimeter away from his head, did he slowly raise his left hand. With his other hand holding onto the crutch, his body was as still as a mountain. Raising his hand, he used his skin to forcefully receive Yu Yang's earth-shattering chop. Die. Yu Yang felt that even if this old man's body was made of steel, he would still be able to cut him in half. What a joke. The new water temple master snorted with a fake smile. He did not change his action of raising his hand and did not even make a second move. However, this action alone had completely broken Yu Yang's full-powered slash. That Zamadeo, which could destroy heaven and earth and split mountains, was like a light smoke when it hit his palm. It turned into mist and disappeared in the blink of an eye. All that was left in Yu Yang's hand was a bare hilt. How could a platinum-ranked weapon be destroyed just like that? What kind of innate ability was this? Wasn't it impossible to use innate abilities in this divine grimoire space? Yu Yang looked at the broken saber in his hand and was stunned for a moment. Damn, isn't this old man's ability a little too strange? Chapter 984. To be able to corrode a weapon instantly and turn it into nothingness, and it was even a platinum-ranked weapon. This ability of the new Water Temple leader was indeed a headache. It was not that Yu Yang did not have a better weapon, but he could not bear to take it out. Even if it could not be corroded, if it was damaged, it would be too late to regret it. Ming Ri Wu, you are such a bad friend. Why didn't you tell me earlier that this old man had such an ability? This was the first time Yu Yang had officially ordered someone to destroy his weapon. He had nothing to complain about. Hence, he vented his anger on Ming Ri Hao, blaming him for not reporting what he knew. I don't know either. The information was wrong. Ming Ri Wu replied weakly. He felt that he was going to die soon and could not be bothered to argue anymore. Damn it. You think you won't die after being hit by a weapon? I will use Kamehameha. Yu Yang definitely did not know how to use Kamehameha, but he could easily condense a ball of energy. Could an energy ball smash the new Water Temple leader to death? Of course, Yu Yang wouldn't do that. With a thought, the ball of energy condensed into energy quickly changed shape under the power of his small law, instantly becoming a huge energy blade that was exactly the same as the platinum Zamadeo. If the new Water Temple master's innate ability was to decompose metal, then this saber formed from energy would definitely cause him to suffer the consequences. Yu Yang sneered and slashed again. Second slash, heaven and earth collapse. Just as the energy blade was about to hit the head of the new Water Temple leader, Yu Yang raised his other hand and quickly condensed a second energy blade. This second energy blade was bigger and faster. It was formed in an instant and surpassed the first energy blade the moment it was formed. With a long tail, it burst out with a special skill that Yu Yang rarely used. Third slash, Lord of Rivers and Mountains. Yu Yang's abnormal attack, super fast energy formation, and familiar usage of the minor laws were all seen by the Sun King. Although he did not show it on the surface, he was amazed in his heart. This young man was truly a formidable opponent. Even Ji Wuri, who was recognized as the most talented person in the Divine Hall, could not achieve this at his age. Who would believe that a human warrior in his 20s could challenge the temple master of the Water Temple of the Central Shrine? It could even directly cause a crisis for the master of the Solar Divine Palace. Although the growth of humans was extremely fast, no matter how fast it couldn't possibly be this fast, right? What do young people in their 20s usually do? The Sun King had read the clown's investigation report and found that before the appearance of Yu Yang, a human warrior in his 20s who could reach the standard of the Tower of Babel could be regarded as a once-in-a-century genius. As for reaching the innate realm in his 20s, he was probably a peerless genius that only appeared once in a millennium. However, while others were still struggling in Tong Tian Tower's innate realm, which was equivalent to Heaven Realm's Earth Realm, Yu Yang was still struggling. This Yu Yang had far surpassed the heavenly stage, surpassed the innate supremacy, and was approaching the godly state. A baby who was only in his 20s had actually managed to catch up to him. Except for the adjective abnormal, the Sun King could no longer think of any other words to describe him. What made him most curious was what kind of person and what kind of power had trained him to be where he was today. The Sun King would never believe that it was born naturally without the protection of a peerless powerhouse. The question was, Was this peerless expert by Yu Yang's side? If not, then he had to kill him as fast as he could. If he was, then where was he? How strong was the peerless expert guarding him? The Sun King's mind was surging like a stormy sea. Thousands of thoughts flashed through his mind. However, in the outside world, time passed by in the blink of an eye. The new Water Temple Master was successfully deceived by Yu Yang's attack. This was because other than Yu Yang, who never played by the rules, no one else would attack like this. Just as the new Water Temple Hall Master raised his hand to block the first energy blade, Yu Yang's second energy blade had already cleverly bypassed the old man's raised right hand and miraculously broke through the old man's mental defense, ruthlessly slashing at the side of the old man's neck, right in the middle. In terms of age, Yu Yang's entire family was no match for the new Water Temple Master. However, in terms of battle techniques, even if all the martial artists of the new Water Temple were added together, they would still be no match for Yu Yang's imagination. The diversion attack, the feint attack, and the second attack had caused the Hall Master of the new Water Temple to be unable to react and could only watch as the energy blade sliced towards his neck. The Sun King almost used time reversal to eliminate this fatal blow for the new Water Temple Master. However, when he saw the astonished expression on the face of the Hall Master of the new Water Temple, he suppressed his disdain for everything in the world. The two energy blades, one after the other, slashed at the new Water Temple Master's neck and hand. Under the watchful eyes of the Sun King and Yu Yang, the two energy blades, which are not made of metal but were formed by Yu Yang's will and energy, instantly turned into nothingness. They disappeared without a trace. The new Water Temple Master did not lose a single strand of his beard. The skin on the side of his neck was as good as new. It did not look like he had taken a third slash at all. Yu Yang was dumbfounded. It was as if he had seen a ghost. F***CK. As for the credit of killing Titan Yu, the Sun King would most likely not snatch it. Moreover, without his ability, the Sun King would definitely need to spend a lot of time to kill Titan Yu. Would the Sun King take the risk to kill him when he could plunder the godly grimoire at any time? If that's the case, I will take my leave first. Here, old Jute Song, you have succeeded. The Sun King snorted and bowed slightly. Then, he turned into a ray of golden light, penetrated the golden barrier, and appeared on the platform where Ming Ri Wu was sitting. With another flash, he disappeared without a trace. Oomph. The new Water Temple Master sneered secretly. If it wasn't for the support of the elders of the deity's temple, how could you, the Sun King, be where you are today? Back then, you were just a servant with average talent. Moreover, you were a servant that was kicked out by Ji Wuri. You want to get the godly grimoire? Even Ji Wuri, who was born with a noble bloodline and was the most favored disciple of the deity's temple, did not dare to say that he could contract the godly grimoire. A third-rate servant dared to be arrogant and covet the godly grimoire? What a joke. The elders had spent a lot of effort to cultivate the Sun King. His name was very famous, but could he really compete with the three temple masters? Even if he could barely catch up to Ji Wuri now, what about in the future? The Sun King, who had exhausted his potential, could only look up to Ji Wuri, who had infinite potential. Try to subdue him with a shabby place like the Tianhua domain? Too childish. Other than the deity's temple's venerable, no one else could get his loyalty. Although the old guys in the elders group were jumping up and down, it was useless. Sun King, you were just wasting your time. You don't even know what conditions are needed to contract the godly grimoire. The new Water Temple Master's lips curled into a cruel smile. He knew the answer, but he did not say it out loud. Wasn't it the best thing to see others hit a wall? You have two gifted abilities? Yu Yang suddenly asked tentatively. Oh, the new Water Temple Master was a little confused. How'd this kid know? According to the legends, this godly grimoire space would prohibit the gifted abilities of those who entered. In order to truly integrate into this space, one must have the unique primordial dual talents. Warriors with primordial dual talents, that is, warriors who were born with dual talents, only existed in legends. However, if they had a breakthrough in some aspect or received a reward from the ancient gods, they would gain wisdom. Very few martial artists were able to develop a second innate ability. On the surface, it seemed easy for Tianqi to produce a second inherent skill, but in the deity's Templar, there were no more than 5 people who possessed 2 inherent skills. In an entire heaven realm, including the heaven realm's 4 great clans and various sects, there were no more than 10 genius warriors. Apart from these 2 kinds of people who had 2 gifted abilities, there was another kind of person. That was the quasi-gifted ability that was personally activated by the deity's temple's sovereign with the power of the ancient code. This kind of quasi-gifted ability was infinitely close to his second gifted ability. The new water temple master, Azure Dragon, who was loyal to the deity's temple sovereign, was one of the few lucky ones who was able to activate it because of his loyalty and suitable conditions. On the surface, no one could tell, but having a second quasi-gifted ability would definitely greatly increase one's strength. With his second quasi-gifted ability, Azure Dragon was often invincible in certain environments. At the very least, he was infinitely close to being invincible. For example, right now, the only problem was, how did this Titan you guess that he had a second gifted ability? Strange. How did this kid's brain work? Was he really that smart? This kid figured out the situation that even the Sun King could not understand with a single sentence? I guessed correctly. Yu Yang saw the uncertain expression on the new water temple master Azure Dragon's face and laughed. Since that's the case, I have an idea. What did you call me just now? Despicable is my nickname, and Shameless is my real name? All right, I've decided to let you see what true shamelessness is. If the Sun King was still here, I would be afraid of using my ultimate move and letting him see through my flaws. But since he's not here, I can rest assured. Old man, have a taste of my treasure blade. This slash is called the Universe Reversal. Yu Yang took out the crescent moon from his storage ring and rushed towards the disdainful Azure Dragon, the new water temple master. A slash came right at his face. The new water temple master stood proudly and raised his hand, just like before, to welcome the slash. However, the result was completely different. This slash caused blood to splatter. When Yu Yang slowly retracted his blade, a severed hand fell to the ground with a thud. Chapter 985. Not only did Yu Yang chop off one of Azure Dragon's hands, but he had also shaved off most of his beard with his saber chi. His robe was torn open and blood oozed out. Impossible! Azure Dragon, the new water temple master, exclaimed. His expression was as if he had seen a ghost. You are very cunning and know how to hide. However, I want to tell you that your time is over. A smile brighter than the sun appeared on Yu Yang's face. Moreover, victory cannot be won through tricks. That is not the right way. The person with the strongest strength could obtain the final victory even without using any tricks. On the contrary, no matter how good one's tricks were, without the corresponding strength, in the end, they would become a laughing stock. Yu Yang did not attack again. He just stared coldly at the cunning old man. Azure Dragon stared at his severed hand for a long time. Suddenly, like a madman, he burst into laughter. Ha ha ha, this is too funny. Do you think that by using some kind of domain power or the power of the law to break my second talent and cut off one of my hands, you can really defeat me? Too naive? Question mark. Yu Yang looked at the old man strangely. Let me tell you some bad news. Azure Dragon stopped laughing. He bent down to pick up his severed hand from the ground and put it back on his wrist. In an instant, the severed hand and wrist healed, no different from before. The wound on his chest had already healed at some point in time. Even his beard had slowly grown and returned to its original appearance. The Azure Dragon, the palace master of the new water temple, paused for a moment with his dragon-headed walking stick and lectured in an old-fashioned tone. Young man, don't think that every race in the heaven realm is as weak as you humans. Take this palace master as an example. As a member of the water clan, let alone breaking my limbs, even if you cut off my head, I wouldn't be hurt at all. We do not have the weakness of your human body. We are half elemental. As long as we exist, we are immortal. You don't know the true benefits of the human body. Forget it. I won't argue with you. Yu Yang did not want to argue with this old man. The human body was indeed the most fragile, but it also had the greatest potential. Moreover, the speed of cultivation was also the fastest. Young man, you have done well to be able to break my second talent. However, as long as you are a human, your weak and pitiful body will always be your fatal weakness. Azure Dragon, the temple master of New Water Temple, brandished his dragon-headed walking stick, and a layer of white mist spread out from his body. This white mist seemed to have a life of its own as it spread in all directions. Yu Yang realized that it was getting harder and harder to breathe in this strange white fog. Although it was gas, it was too humid. Staying in there felt like being suffocated in water and unable to breathe. However, this was not water, so it was useless to breathe in water. The Hall Master of the New Water Temple, Azure Dragon, was very pleased. This white mist was his domain, the tidal mist domain. As long as one stayed in this tidal mist, all living beings would be restricted by him. Azure Dragon was very pleased with himself. This white mist was his tidal mist domain. As long as one stayed in this mist, all life would be restricted by him. He could directly suck the water out of the opponent's body. He could turn the opponent into a salted fish. However, with Titan Yu's willpower and strength, he could not do this. Even a god might not be able to directly take away Titan Yu's life. He did not need to directly take away a life because he was familiar with the human body's weaknesses. The human body had 3 major weaknesses. The first was the head, which was protected by the sovereign's willpower and could not be easily harmed. The second was the heart. If the heart did not beat, no matter how strong the human body was, it would soon collapse. The problem was that the opponent's heart was protected by a huge amount of energy. It was very difficult to stop it from beating. The third was the internal organs, especially the lungs, which needed to communicate with the outside air to absorb energy. If one did not breathe for a few minutes, the human body's condition would plummet. Titan Yu was very strong, but no matter how strong he was still a human. No matter how strong he was, he could not escape from the weakness of breathing. The Azure Dragon's tidal mist domain could not take away the opponent's life, but could not take away the water in the opponent's body. However, he could take away the air in the domain and fill the space with his own tidal mist. As long as the tidal mist filled the opponent's lungs, he would be able to wreak havoc in Titan Yu's lungs. Yu Yang raised his hand, waved the crescent moon blade, and slashed forward. The Azure Dragon was clearly in front of him, but the blade Qi deviated strangely in the white mist. It floated behind Yu Yang and disappeared into the white mist vortexes. The second slash, Yu Yang slashed towards the ground. Logically, there should have been a deep mark left on the ground. In the worst-case scenario, the crescent moon blade should have cut into the white jade tiles on the ground. However, an even stranger thing happened. The crescent moon blade in Yu Yang's hand did not even touch the ground, but his entire body had already floated upwards. It was as if he was floating in the air, as if he did not feel any force at all. In the tidal mist domain of the Azure Dragon, everything was under his control. Even if Yu Yang wanted to attack or escape, he could not do so. If this is not a grimoire, I still can't do anything to you, because you can hide in a summoning grimoire. I don't have the patience to wait for you. The kind-looking Azure Dragon, the temple master of the New Water Temple, showed a trace of malevolence at the corner of his lips. Unfortunately, you can't summon your grimoire here, so I'm dead meat? Yu Yang did not panic at all. You will suffocate to death in this white fog that is like a tidal current. I know it's not easy for someone like you to suffocate to death. Maybe a day, maybe a month. But no matter how long I have to wait, as long as there's hope, even if it's a year, 10 years, or 100 years, I will wait patiently. The Azure Dragon grinned. Not a bad domain, but don't you want to know what my domain power is? Yu Yang asked back. His breathing was getting more and more difficult. I don't need to know what your domain power is. The Azure Dragon laughed and explained, because my tidal mist domain is slightly different from other people's domains. Yu Yang did not understand. As long as I activate the tidal mist domain, My enemy will not have a chance to use it. It's a domineering domain. The azure dragon laughed. Did Ji Zun of the Divine Palace also teach you this? Yu Yang was finally a little moved. Maybe you don't know, but this is an ability that every divine grimoire warrior with the rank of Temple Master must master. The azure dragon saw that Yu Yang could barely breathe and was in a good mood. It was not that he had never tortured an opponent like this before, but he had never felt as satisfied as he did today. How could killing an ordinary opponent compare to the hope of killing Tong Tian Tower? How could killing the new prison emperor of Tong Tian Tower give him such a sense of accomplishment? Is this the beginning of comprehending the power of the ancient code? Yu Yang muttered to himself. He now understood a little why Ji Zun of the Divine Hall required all the hall masters under him to grasp the domineering domain. The reason must be to use this to train his subordinates, allowing them to continuously grow and improve in battle. From domain power to domineering domain power, and then to the power of the ancient code. Yu Yang felt that although the central shrine did not have places like Tong Tian Tower and Gate of Life and Death, it did not directly require its subordinates to follow the path of innate Ji Zun. However, this kind of extension of talent or race ability into domain power, and then to the domineering domain power, and then to the absolute existence of the ancient code power. This was also a kind of growth model. This kind of growth model was even more acceptable for the majority of Heaven Realm warriors. Like Tong Tian Tower, it had to rely on personal comprehension. It was too difficult to break through. Tong Tian Tower walked the path of absolute geniuses. If it did not succeed, they would return to mediocrity. The central shrine walked the path of elites. Although there might not be geniuses, there would at least be a large group of elites. It was very necessary to maintain the ruling position. Yu Yang suddenly understood the venerable deity temple's intention. It seemed that this guy had put in a lot of effort to ensure the outstanding status of the central shrine. Breathe, breathe hard. New Water Temple Master Azure Dragon laughed out loud. The more you breathe, the more water will fill your lungs. My tidal mist domain not only fuses with the air, it can also fuse with your body. Before long, your body will be filled with water and swell up, just like a corpse that has been drowned alive in the water. I have to say, you have studied the weaknesses of humans very thoroughly. Yu Yang praised, then changed his tone and snorted. However, there are always exceptions. My body is not an ordinary person's body. Not understanding this is your biggest failure. Yu Yang kept the crescent moon blade and spread his hands. A piece of earth Guayin fire was scattered around his body. What made the new water Temple Master Azure Dragon dumbfounded was that these terrifying flames, which would explode at the slightest movement of energy, were now as still as a lake, without any ripples. You still don't understand? Yu Yang slowly walked towards Azure Dragon. No matter how Azure Dragon activated the tidal mist domain, it could not affect Yu Yang's movements at all. On the contrary, when Azure Dragon wanted to retreat, the tidal mist domain restrained him, not allowing him to move easily. It was as if the owner of the tidal mist domain was Yu Yang and not him, the new Water Temple Master. Impossible. This is clearly my domain. Azure Dragon's expression really changed. Wrong. This is my creation domain. Ever since the Sun King left, you have been dreaming. Do you understand? Yu Yang put on a bracelet and grabbed Azure Dragon's throat before the new Water Temple Master could call out elemental disaster. If the Sun King didn't leave, I wouldn't have dared to use my domain so easily, and I wouldn't have been able to extract so many secrets from you in your dreams. Now it's all over. I'm very happy that I've obtained a lot of supreme temple secrets. Thank you for your contribution. Even if you have elemental disaster, don't even think about killing me. Azure Dragon desperately resisted with energy. I won't kill you. Yu Yang smiled. I just want to turn you into a ball of fire and let you burn forever. I think you will feel very warm. No. Azure Dragon's face turned deathly pale when he heard this, and he stared at Yu Yang's left hand in despair. On that hand, there was a ball of nirvana fire. Because you are too powerful, the conversion may take a long time. I hope you can cooperate. Also, don't think that this hidden snake, which looks like a dragon head crutch but is actually a guardian war beast, can help you. This is fake, understand? Everything you see is fake, but of course, it is also real. Yu Yang pulled the dragon head crutch out of the sea dragon's hand, as if it was a small earthworm. At this moment, the sea dragon truly believed that it had really fallen into this Titan Yu's dream trap. Spare me. I am willing to surrender. Azure Dragon shouted at the end. I'm very sorry. I didn't hear what you said. Why don't you say it again? Yu Yang's face revealed a smile more terrifying than that of a demon. Azure Dragon opened his mouth and spat out a ball of fire. Yu Yang and the new Water Temple Master fought for a long time, but in fact, in the creation domain, only a few seconds had passed. Under Ming Ri Wu's gaze, he saw Yu Yang grab the new Water Temple Master's throat with one hand and turn this unkillable old man into a ball of fire. Then, Yu Yang threw him in front of him like he was throwing rubbish. The shock in his heart was even greater than seeing an ancient god descend. How did you do it? Ming Riwu obviously knew that Yu Yang could win, but he never expected him to win so quickly and in such a carefree manner. Yu Yang snorted arrogantly. It's a secret. Yu, who floated over from afar, covered her mouth and laughed secretly. Actually, it was only against the semi-elemental Azure Dragon. If it was another one, even if Yu Yang could win, it would not be so easy. In addition to the natural restraint of attributes, there was also the overwhelming suppression of the domain. Nirvana Flame, Heaven's Fury Fire Lotus, Twilight Flame, Scarlet Sky Divine Flame, Earth Gue Een Flame, Creation Domain, and even the energy absorption bracelet known as Elemental Disaster. If Yu Yang still could not defeat the new Water Temple Master, he would not be Yu Yang's third young master. Most importantly, in the creation domain, Yu Yang used a few days to turn the Azure Dragon into a ball of fire. How could it be done in a few seconds? It was just that the creation domain was more mysterious than the gate of life and death. Time and space, life and energy, everything was under the control of Yu Yang. In the creation domain, Yu Yang was the creator of that small world. What should we do with this woman? Princess Qian saw the Freedom Queen lying on steps. She raised her head and glared at Yu Yang angrily, as if a certain someone had been caught red-handed. Chapter 986. The Golden Palace. They crossed the white jade stairs, passed through the front hall that towered into the clouds, and passed through the passage of the Golden Palace that was even more unbearable to look up at. Reflected in his eyes was a brilliant and extraordinary enormous square. It was richly ornamented and magnificent, and any imperial city in the world was simply like a tiny ant's nest when compared to it and was inferior in comparison. Even the wondrous Sky Island, which was suspended in the sky and protected by the golden shield, had as many as 9 of them. In front of them, there were 3 avenues that were nearly a kilometer wide and tens of kilometers long. Then there were countless golden stairs. The tens of thousands of golden stairs were all made of pure gold. If Yu Yang had not entered the stairway to heaven and seen the even more incredible stairway to heaven of the World Tree, he would definitely be shocked by such a miracle. You go after the Sun King first. We'll check around and then catch up with you. Princess Sisai had a hunch that she had to be separated from Yu Yang for a while in order to really help him. She did not know what would happen around here, but she found that after entering the Golden Palace, the 6 records talent that was originally forbidden by the power of law could play a role again. I'll go east. When Yu came here, she also had a feeling that there seemed to be some kind of invisible voice that was constantly calling her. Could it be that she was really like what Princess Sisai had said, that she would eventually become the key to her brother's victory? Then I'll go west with Qian. Drunken Cat pondered for a moment and made a decision. This Golden Palace was facing the north and south. From the south, it was facing the north. Left to the west, right to the east. Originally, Princess Sisai's strength was much stronger than Yu Yu's, but Drunken Cat was more worried about Tigress than Yu Yu, who was meticulous, calm, and aloof from worldly affairs. If they were to encounter a powerful enemy, Yu Yu would be able to protect herself better than Princess Sisai. If Yu Yu couldn't win, she wouldn't force herself to accept the challenge. However, Princess Sisai was different. She would do everything in her power to defeat her enemy. Drunken Cat felt that it was necessary for her to stay by Princess Sisai's side and provide support when necessary. If Yu Yu could accompany Red or Man, it would be safer for them to search together. Yu Yang got Red, Man, and the others to stay behind temporarily and spread out to see if they could find any crucial information about the Golden Temple. As for the battle against the Sun King, it was not a battle that could be decided in a short period of time. He brought everyone here mainly to overwhelm the Sun King with their collective strength at the last moment and obtain the final victory. If they joined forces to fight against the Sun King from the start, it was very likely that a few of them would die. Although Man, Red, and Duo were all guardian beasts and wouldn't really die, Yu Yang didn't want any accidents to happen to them. If they were killed, it would just be a decrease in strength. What Yu Yang was most afraid of was that their intelligence, willpower, and potential would greatly decrease. If they didn't have to die in battle, Yu Yang still hoped that everyone would be safe. It's not okay if you don't bring anyone with you. Princess Sisai knew that Yu Yang was protecting her, but she was also worried about his safety. After all, his safety was the most important. Little Wan Li and Yao Yu's sisters follow Xiao San. Yu Yu originally wanted to bring hornless dragon Jiang, Ying, and Yvonne. But when she saw Yu Yang waving his hand, she didn't bring it up. If too many guardian beasts followed and charged in, the Sun King would realize that something was wrong. That would definitely ruin the original plan. For the final victory, Yu Yu decided to bring Man, Red, and the others outside to find the biggest secret of the Golden Palace as soon as possible. At the same time, they had to set up an inescapable trap to prevent the Sun King, who was defeated by her brother later, from escaping. The Sun King must be killed. If he escaped, not only Yu Yang, but the whole Tong Tian Tower would also suffer unimaginable consequences. You guys be careful. Yu Yang hugged Princess Sisai and Drunken Cat one by one. The last one was Yu Yu's turn. Before the battle, Yu Yu couldn't care less about her shyness. She hugged her brother tightly and pressed her cheek against his, trying her best to hold back the tears that were about to fall. Xiao San, you have to be more careful. We'll catch up soon. You must wait for us. Seeing him bringing little Wan Li and the Yao Yu sisters up the golden stairs, Yu Yu even chased a few steps and warned with a crying voice, "Don't fight recklessly. Be careful. Remember the weakness that Her Majesty Fei Wan Li told you." Yu Yang didn't dare to look back. He was afraid that if he did, they would burst into tears and pounce on him, refusing to let him go first. He hardened his heart and ran all the way up hundreds of steps. After confirming that Princess Sisai and the others weren't chasing him, he raised his hand and waved it gently, indicating that he understood. Princess Sisai bit her lips. She waved her hand firmly. "Let's go. We have to act as soon as possible." Little Wan Li and Yao Yu, the dragon sisters, followed closely behind Yu Yang. From the golden stairs, they ran up tens of thousands of steps before they gradually saw the official hall behind the clouds. This hall was purplish gold in color. It was magnificent and beautiful. It was hard to describe with words in the world. At the end of the golden stairs, white clouds floated about, as if it was a fairyland on earth. In front of the purplish gold hall, there were 4 giant pillars. The trees arched a white jade archway that was 100 meters long and wide. In the middle of the white jade archway that emitted a dense treasure light, there were 4 words, "Purple Gold Divine Hall," written in ancient runes. In the distance, the purple gold divine hall at the head of the 3 gates also had a plaque. It was written Supreme Hall. Yu Yang slowed down his pace and carefully entered the golden door in the middle with little Wan Li. Yao Yu and Yao Yu were still a dozen meters behind in case of any changes. The interior of the purple gold divine hall was extremely large. It was several hundred meters tall. There were giant pearls that were like stars in the sky, shining resplendently. There were also dozens of coiling dragon pillars in the middle. Each pillar was so large that it would take dozens of people to wrap their arms around it. Yu Yang estimated that just the front hall of the purple gold divine hall was as big as a dozen football fields. On the throne in the front hall, there was a person standing. It was the Taiyang King. So fast, the Taiyang King looked back. His expression was abnormally serious. He carefully sized up Yu Yang. When he found that Yu Yang didn't have any injuries or signs of fighting, his gaze turned even colder. He shook his head and sighed. I knew that the Azure Dragon couldn't defeat you, but I never thought that he couldn't even stop you for 10 minutes. Tighten you. Are you really so strong that you can kill a temple master in 10 minutes? Furthermore, your inherent skill is restricted by the ancient code, and you can't summon your grimoire? He's a fake. You should know that. Yu Yang pretended to be relaxed and laughed. If the Azure Dragon is a fake, then how many people in this world aren't fake? Even someone as strong as Ming Ri, how couldn't easily take revenge against his old enemy? But you, Titan Yu, only took 10 minutes to kill a water temple master. This is something that I can't do easily. So, I really have to say respect to you. The Taiyang King said as he increased his strength. Although the Taiyang King was impressed, he didn't hold back. Other than quickly increasing his strength, he also secretly observed the Yao Yu sisters from the corner of his eyes. Yu Yang naturally wouldn't be at a disadvantage. He increased his strength while observing his surroundings. He even paid extra attention to the table in front of the throne. On the table, there were a few items. There were brush, ink, paper, inkstone, imperial seal, and even a huge grimoire that seemed to be a godly grimoire. Due to the distance, Yu Yang couldn't see if the huge grimoire that occupied a third of the table was a divine grimoire. He also couldn't tell if it was a godly grimoire or a holy grimoire. However, based on what he saw before, he felt that this magnificent grimoire was at least a holy grimoire. It was very likely to be a legendary, godly grimoire. Was it really a godly grimoire? If it was, why didn't the Taiyang King try to contract it? If the Taiyang King didn't contract it, did it mean that it couldn't be easily contracted? Even though Yu Yang was experienced and knowledgeable, when he saw this grimoire that seemed to be a godly grimoire, he couldn't help but feel his mouth go dry and his heart beat faster. I also have a beast, but for now, I think it's better for us to fight. If you win, I, the Taiyang King, can die without regrets. Everything will belong to you. The future of the Heaven Realm will also belong to you. If you lose, I can promise you 3 wishes. If it's within my power, I will definitely fulfill them for you. The Taiyang King's body emitted a glow that was even more intense than the sun. At the last moment, he paused for a moment and said sincerely, I have never had such an exciting opponent. If it wasn't for fate forcing me to make a choice, Titan Yu, to be honest, I don't want to be your enemy. Taiyang King, I don't want to be your enemy either, but I don't have a second choice. Yu Yang imitated the Night Empress Starry Sky domain and steadily lit up the surrounding stars. Together with the blazing light emitted by the Taiyang King, it formed a strange scene of the stars and the sun intertwining. Everything depends on the choice of fate. The Taiyang King rushed over. At this moment, all methods, schemes, and strategies were useless. In the face of absolute power, the only thing Yu Yang could do was to fight head-on. He had no choice. This wasn't a battle with the Azure Dragon, the temple master of the New Water Temple. This was the Taiyang King, whose domain, laws, and willpower were all above him. Rumble. The direct exchange of the two's strongest powers shook the entire purple gold divine palace. When Princess Sisai, who was running, looked up, she found that the whole sky was shrouded by the light of the sun. It was so dazzling that she couldn't see it. The shockwave transcended space and came crashing down. It was like the end of the world. Yu Yu's beautiful face turned pale, and her heart trembled in fear. In the face of this doomsday scene, other than closing her eyes and praying desperately for her brother, she found that she couldn't do anything else. You're tuning into the Warrior Lore YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.